Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. And I am Marcia from Mom Hunts Dead People. And today we're going over the second inquest in the Lizzie Borden trial. If you want the witness statements or the first inquest, pop them back over to the homepage and check those out. The first inquest was a secondary source document. I will reiterate again, yes, I said I wasn't going to cover secondary source documents, but I also said I wasn't going to read ahead, and I didn't realize it was secondary source until we got into it. However, today's is definitely a primary source document. It's also going to be an inquest of more than one person. All right, everyone, let's dig in. All right, inquest upon the death of Andrew J. Borden and Abby D. Borden. This is volume 2. The inquest of testimony, unlike volume 1, where we only had Lizzie, you can see we have quite a few more people on this one, which means hopefully each section will be a little bit easier to break it down. Unlike volume 1, this is a true facsimile. And our stenographer was Annie M. White of New Bedford, Massachusetts. First up, we have John V. Morse. Question from Mr. Knowlton. What is your name? John V. Morse. What does the V stand for? Vinicum. What is your place of residence, Mr. Morse? Last year it has been South Dartmouth. My real home is in the West. Whereabouts in South Dartmouth? William A. Davis. I shall have to ask you many questions. Well, I have many questions because it says whereabouts. So I'm thinking a town or a subdivision of South Dartmouth. And he says William A. Davis, but I'm assuming he's actually staying with a Mr. William A. Davis, and he doesn't mean like a subdivision or something. I will answer any questions. What is your business? When I am home, farming. Here, nothing particular. I have been helping Mr. Davis some in the meat business. He is in there. Okay, so yeah, I'm definitely going to say he's staying with a William A. Davis. So if anybody was really wanted to look into the Sanborn maps on that, you can pull out the ones for Dartmouth and South Dartmouth and find if a William A. Davis has Sanborn fire insurance and be able to locate it. Or maybe even find his business. Have you had any connection with the horse business? Not recently. I brought some horses here when I came 2.5 years ago. All sold out now. Yes, sir. Have you had any dealings in horses since then? A little long occasionally, not to amount to anything. What relation is Mr. Davis to you? None. Years before I went west, I worked for them in the meat business. I have always kept up correspondence since. It seems like home to me, and I like to stay there. Isaac C. Davis's son is in the meat business with them. The old man cannot see now, has a cancer. I stay there with them. Are you a married man? No, sir. Never have been. No, sir. This question you are not obliged to answer unless you want to. Are you a man of some property? Yes, sir. Enough to live on without working? Yes, sir. What relation were you to Mr. Borden? Mr. Borden's first wife was my sister. What was her name? Sarah A. Morse. How long did she die? Well, I can't tell exactly, but somewhere during war times. If you are a studier of history, which I assume you are if you're watching this, then you will know there is always a war somewhere. But it wouldn't be hard to figure out which war he's referring to based on location of the United States, the year it is, 1892, the fact that Lizzie's in her 30s, and that her mother died when Lizzie was very young. I think they said like 2 or something. And figure out from that which war they were referring to. How old was her youngest child? About 30? I can't tell exactly. No, when she died, I think about 3 years old. How long have you been in the West? Since I first went west? Yes, I think about 38 years. What part of the West? When I first went west, I went to Minnesota, stayed about a year, and came from there to Mixie County, Illinois. I'm assuming that that part there where they've highlight or where I've highlighted, and it just says Mixie is the stenographer was unable to determine what exactly he said at the time. So she wasn't able to get all of it written down. Where have you spent the largest portion of your time? Largest portion, I guess, in Iowa, Hastings, Mills County. Is that your last residence in the West? Yes, my property is there. Did you come here with the intention of remaining here? I rented my farm for 1 year. I did did not know how long I might stay. I calculated to stay, then I rented it for another year. Where did you come to here first? Warren, Rhode Island. Who did you know there? I have an uncle there. No relative of Mrs. Borden. No, brother to my father. On the other side? Yes, sir. Then that is uncle to Mrs. Borden, too. Yes, sir. What is his name? Charles. Charles Borden. No, more. That conversation about relatives is a bit confusing to me because you have the investigator going like, "Hey, were you related to the guy you're staying with?" And he's like, "Yeah, I have he's my uncle." Now, to me, it's common sense that if they're like, "Hey, it's my uncle," that would make it Lizzie and Emma's great uncle on the Morse side. But then they're asking him if it's a relative of Mrs. Borden, and they replies, "No, brother to my father." But I guess that's where the confusion is coming in because there was two Mrs. Borden. The first one, who is related to Morse, who's talking, and the second one who was murdered, Abby. So I'm thinking that John Morse is like, no, it's not related to the murdered Mrs. Borden. It's related to my side of the family. How long did you stay there? Yes, about a year and a half. When did you first come to see Mr. A.J. Borden? After I came back this time from the West, do you? Yes, a few weeks after. I can't tell just when. You were on terms of acquaintance with him and his family, I suppose. Yes, sir. Had you visited him during your absence in the West? Or had you been East during that time? I don't understand. Had you been East during the 38 years? Oh, yes, I came the first time just after the war. I guess the same year the war ended. Then I was here the year before the centennial and the year afterwards. And I were here, I think, 7 years ago previous to this. I think those are all the times. And he's giving you great information on how to pinpoint when he was there. On those visits, did you come to the Bordens too? Always stayed there, at one time nearly a year at a time. Have you kept up correspondence with the Bordens? Yes, sir. During the whole time. That is with his oldest daughter. Which one is that? Emma. Never with any of the rest of them. I used to have a letter occasionally from my brother-in-law. From Borden himself? Yes, sir. How frequent was the correspondence with Miss Emma? Probably once 3 or 4 months. When you came back, after you had been there a short time, you came to see them this time? Yes, when I first came, my horses were troublesome. I could not come for 3 or 4 weeks. How often did you come to see them after that? Are you a trifle hard of hearing? No, I thought I could hear as well as anyone. As somebody who has a family of people who are hard of hearing, but not actually deaf, they're just hearing impaired, it is surprisingly common for people to tell you that they hear just fine when you're like, nah, bro. How often did you come to see them after that? Sometimes once a week, sometimes once in 3 or 4 weeks, sometimes once in 3 months, just as it happened. Did you often stay overnight? Yes, sir, quite often. Were you on good terms with all the family? Yes, sir. The last time you were there before this murder was when? I should think somewhere about the 10th of July. How long did you stay then? Did not stay but a short time. I was here overnight, but I went down to an aunt's on the Stafford Road at that time. What is her name? Catherine Verdery. Before that, can you recall the last time you were there? It was somewhere the last of June. I know Phoebe Curry was sick at the time. She died a little afterward. I think about the last of June. Did you stop all night then? No, sir. I came over in the morning and went back at night. I can tell all about that time if you want me to. There was a lady who come over, Mr. Davis's daughter with me. We drove over in the afternoon. I hired a horse, and Mr. Borden's daughter went to ride. We went down to the steamboat. I took her home after dark. Did you see much of Miss Lizzie when you came to the house? Sometimes I did not see either of the girls. I stayed a few minutes and talked with Mr. Borden and went out. Take the last time, but one in July, when you went down to Burberry's. Did you see Miss Lizzie then? I don't think I saw either of them at the time. Take the time before that, when Miss Davis came over with you. Did you see the girls then? I saw Emma. I went to ride. I told you. Did you see Lizzie? I don't think I did. The day of the tragedy, the visit on the occasion when the murder happened, did you see her? No, I came here about 1:30 a week ago today, I think it was. Did you see Miss Lizzie before the murder? No, I did not. Had you often stopped overnight? Why, occasionally. Had you seen much of the state of the domestic relations in the family? No, I don't know, but I saw. So you could speak with any positiveness as to the relations between Lizzie and her mother. They were always on good terms, as far as I know. I might make the same remark. Did you see enough of her when you were there and of her relations to speak with positiveness as to what her relations were with her mother? I should think they were pleasant. She used to eat to the table with her, and I did not see anything. Did she usually eat with her? Occasionally, sometimes in the morning, she would not eat there, probably would not be up. The last 3 times you were there, you did not see Miss Lizzie at all. I don't think I did. You ate meals there. The last time I ate dinner there, the last time I was there, that is all. You did not see her then. I take that back. Dinner and breakfast. You did not see her then. No, sir. The time before, did you eat there? No, I think I went down to Aunt's. When Miss Davis came over, did you eat there then? Yes, we took dinner and supper. And did not see Miss Lizzie then? No. When is the last time you remember eating at the table with Miss Lizzie before the tragedy? I don't know as I can call to mind. You have done so? Yes. You have done so in 6 months? Oh, yes, several times. You say the day before the tragedy you came about what time? I left New Bedford on the 12:35 train. I suppose I got to his house about 1:30. Eat dinner there? Yes, sir, they had been to dinner. Had you written you were coming? I think not. Were you in the habit, since this year and a half of being here, of writing to any of them? I wrote to Mr. Borden. Had you written to either of your nieces? Emma has to me. Never to Lizzie? No. Lizzie has not written you, nor you to her? No, sir. You have no letters from Lizzie in your possession? No, sir. You do not think you had written announcing your visit at this time? I don't think I did. Let me see. Let me tell it as I can think of it. Mr. Borden, when I was over there sometime in July that I speak of, wanted to know if I knew of a man who could get on his farm to take charge of it. I told him I did not know. I would see. When I got back, I wrote him I knew of a man I thought would suit him. I would send him over. He wrote back to me he would rather I wait until I saw him. I have his letter here in my pocket if you want to see it. What was the date of that letter? You may refresh your memory. If you have no objections, I will see it. Witness produces the letter dated July 25th, 1892. Have you any objection to me keeping this? No, sir. I would not like it lost, because it is the last one I ever had from him. That then was the last correspondence before you came over. That is the last. Did you not write him you were coming? No, sir. You came partially in pursuance of that request? Yes, sir. Was that about 10 days before you came? Yes, sir. They were not expecting you that particular day, but they were looking for you at any time. Yes, sir. Who did you see at the house when you got there that noon? Mr. Borden, that is Andrew and his wife. And the servant girl? Yes, I saw her first. Emma was away? Yes. Now then, tell what happened that day. Well, I went in there, and the first thing I asked the girl, she was the first person I saw when I got there. I asked if Mr. Borden was at home, or Andrew. I don't know which. She said he was on the lounge. Go on. I went in and he got up. The lounge was on this side of the room. Him and Mrs. Borden sat there and chatted. He asked if I had been to dinner. I told him I had not, but was not hungry at all. Mrs. Borden said, we have just had dinner a little while ago. It is all warm. I will put it on. She did in the dining room. I sat down and ate, and we went back to the sitting room and chatted again until between 3 and 4. I was going to Swansea. I came over to Kirby's stable, hired a horse and buggy, and went over to Swansea. It is so southern that if you tell somebody that you're not hungry, they're like, I'll just fix you something anyway. My Italian relatives will do the exact same thing. Like, you need the feeding. With Mr. Borden, no, sir. I asked him to go. He said he did not feel able to. They were indisposed, all of them that day. And the daughter? Yes, Mrs. Borden told me they had all been sick. Who did you see at the farm? A man by the name of Frank, the Swede. No, an American, Frank Eddy. I can think if you give me a little time. Anybody else? I'm assuming that is spoken very quickly and is basically one giant word because that's how it's been typed. But That could have just been a scrivener error and that they forgot to separate those words. I saw what I supposed to be his wife. I never was acquainted with her. Any other farmhands? No, sir. Stayed to supper over there? No, sir. I ate supper at William Whitcomb's, a little beyond there. In Warren? No, in Swansea. Got back home about what time? I got back to the house probably 8:45. Not far from that after dark. When you got there, who did you find at home then? Think the girl was there, the servant, and Mr. and Mrs. Borden, and Lizzie. I know they were there. Did you make any inquiries about Lizzie? I did not. Nothing was said about her. No, sir. Did she come in while you were there? Did you hear or see her come in? I heard the front door shut. The girls usually come in and go upstairs when they come in with their clothes on in that way. I heard her come in. I supposed it was her. Emma was not at home. What he means by clothes on in that way is basically just she came in her street clothes. So this was still a time period when you had the clothes you wear to lounge around the house, and then the clothes you wear in public. What time did you retire that night? Mr. and Mrs. Borden and me sat there and talked half an hour probably, and Mrs. Borden retired. Mr. Borden and me probably sat there until about 10 o'clock. He says, John, is it not about time we went to bed? I says, it is about 10, isn't it? I think it is. So you both went to bed together? No, he went up to at the same time. Yes, sir. You slept in the same room where this woman was found dead the next day. This woman would be his niece's stepmother. So it's just this woman, not like they have any familiarity or relationship. At the very least, she could have been like a friend or something, or an acquaintance. In the morning, what time did you arise? I think I got up about 6 o'clock. Was you the first one up? I think so. I did not see anybody in the room when I got up. Was the servant up? I think not. She was not downstairs. Who was the first one you did see? Mr. Borden. He got up before the servant girl. I saw him first. What time did he come out? I think he had been up some a half hour when he came down, very near to it. How did he appear to be that morning in his health? He said he felt some better. Did you happen to know of his taking some medicine? I asked him to go over to Swansea. He said he did not feel able to. I says, I will wait until morning if you will go. He said, no, he had been taking some medicine and did not think he would go. Did he say what it was? Physic, I suppose. He did not say what it was. No, sir. Did you see Mrs. Borden? She came down soon after. How did she appear to be? She said she felt real well that day, that is, what she had done. What time did you have breakfast? A little after 7, I think. Are you pretty sure about the time of breakfast? I don't think it could have been more than 20 minutes past 7. I judge about that time. Can you remember what you had for breakfast? I don't know as I do know. I know what we had the day before for dinner. What did they have the day before dinner? Some veal, sort of a soup like. That would not warm over for breakfast then. I could not tell what they had. Did they have some kind of meat? I think some kind. Do you remember whether they had some sort of fruit? Apples, pears, or bananas? There was bananas on the table. Further than that, you cannot remember? No, sir. Did they all eat pretty heartily? Not very. They both ate. Both Mr. and Mrs. Borden. Yes, sir. Did they eat the fruit? I don't think they did. When did you leave the house? Well, about 9, but I should think maybe quarter or 20 minutes of 9. What was going on in the intervening time before you went? We went out in the sitting room from the dining room, and Mr. and Mrs. Borden and I talked a little while. Then she went out dusting around, doing her little chores. Then Mr. Borden and I talked about some cattle I had, and then I went away. Did you ever say where you was going? Yes, sir. He was telling the night before. Up at Mr. Emery's, I had a nephew and niece from the West, and he told me where they lived and wanted me to go and see them. Did he tell you where they lived? Yes, sir. 4-way Bossett Street. Did you tell him you were going? Yes, sir. As I went out the door, he says, John, come back to dinner with us. That is the last he spoke to me. I said I would. I came to the post office and got a car. When you came from New Bedford to Fall River, did you have any set time to go back? Not particular, no. I told Mr. Davis I would try to get back the next day. He says you will be gone 2 days, I guess. I will give you that. I could have gone back that night before at 6 o'clock or half past. You told Mr. Borden. You wouldn't come back to dinner when he asked you. Yes, sir. Had Lizzie got up when you went away? I had not seen her. When you went away, was Mrs. Borden downstairs? I don't think she was when I went away. She was there a few minutes before. I don't think I saw her when I came out. How long before you went away did you see her? I think not more than 10 minutes. She had been about most of the time? Yes. Which door did you go out of? The back door. Was it fastened when you went out? Yes, and Mr. Borden opened it and let me out and hooked it himself. After you got out? Yes, sir. Was it the habit to keep that hooked? Always. And the front door? Always kept it fastened. They have been very cautious, always have been about the doors. Did you take notice what the servant girl was doing when you went out? I don't know. I heard Mrs. Borden tell her at breakfast time it was so she would like for her to wash the windows. Did you hear Mrs. Borden say anything about going out that morning? No, sir. Did you know about her receiving any note? Only by hearsay sense. What was that? I heard there was a note came and that somebody was sick. Who told you that? Anybody of the family? Lizzie. You did not hear anything of it at the time? No, sir. When did Lizzie first tell you that? I think in the afternoon. The same afternoon. I think so. She did not say who the note came from. No, she did not. Nor where she was to go. No, sir. But she had not gone when you came away. I think not. How came Mrs. Borden to speak to the servant girl at the breakfast table? I don't know. I suppose it came into her mind. The servant girl did not eat with you? No, sir. Was she in the room there? In and out of the room, the door was open. Into the kitchen. Had she begun to wash the windows when you went away? Could not tell you that. Did you see her when you went out through the kitchen? Yes, sir. What did she appear to be doing then? I did not notice. Won't you detail your movements after you left the house? That day? Yes. I left there 15 or 20 minutes of 9. Came down to the post office, wrote a proposal, and went up Bedford Street to 3rd Street, and went from there to Pleasant Street, and up to Waybosset Street, number 4, Dan Emery's. And if you're using the Sanborn map to follow along, you can trace, or should be able to trace, most of what he just said. Go on. How long did you stay there? I think I stayed there until about 20 minutes past 11, maybe a little later. You got there about 10. It must have been earlier. Did you see the relatives you went there to see? I saw one. The young man was out. I did not see him. What was the young woman's name? Annie Morse. She was indisposed when I was there. She was on the lounge part of the time. She is my brother's daughter. And we have yet another wonderful name drop. We now know the name of the niece of who we went to go see on number 4 Waybosset. You had not seen her for a good while, a great many years. Did she come from the same part to the west you lived? She belonged up in Minnesota. I went there first. The first you heard of her being there was from Mr. Borden. No, I was at her grandmother's. They told me she was there and had gone to Providence with one of her cousins. When I got off the cars, they got on. I just barely saw her. Had you ever been to Emery's before? Not this time. I had 6 or 7 years ago when they lived on North Main Street. What occasioned you to leave at 20 minutes past 11? Nothing. I thought it was about time to be going down. What time did the Borden family dine? 12 about. Did they ask you to stay to dinner? Yes, sir. I told them I had another engagement. The engagement you had was the engagement to dine with your brother? Yes. Did you walk up? No, came on the streetcar. What time did you get to the Borden house? I think it must be pretty well towards 12, within 15 or 20 minutes of it. I don't know, but it is quite that. Where did you get off the car? At 2nd Street, and walked up 2nd Street. Yes, sir. When was the first you heard that Mr. Borden was killed? When I went into the door, I went around before I went into the house to a pear tree to get a couple of pears. When I came back, the servant girl met me at the door and asked if I had heard the news. I said no. She said Mr. and Mrs. Borden were both murdered. A man named Sawyer stood there at the time. Was anybody else in the house then? A man named Bowen. I think several policemen. I don't know. There was so much excitement. I know there were several women there. It still blows my mind how open crime scenes were back then. There was one crime scene where nobody was accused that also involved an axe. They killed like the whole family. They had found what they assumed was the murder weapon, the axe. And the neighbors actually picked up the axe and started reenacting the murder before the cops even came. I mean, you can't even imagine doing such madness nowadays. We would be in so much trouble. If you guys know the murder that I'm thinking of, drop it down in the comments. I want to say it was the one where like the little girls were staying over, like the neighbor girls were staying over for a sleepover, and they murdered like all the kids and the parents, and it turned out to be like some guy hiding in the attic, is what they assumed, but no, they never charged anyone. Like they didn't even get that far. They didn't even get to accusing someone. At least in this, they're like, we think Lizzie did it. I haven't seen the proof yet that Lizzie did it. And I'm still stumbling over the fact that she had to have committed this murder, according to popular belief, around Bridget doing all of her chores. It's like, how did you manage to murder somebody with somebody else in the house and not hear anything? If I'm being hit with an axe, I'm screaming. I mean, she must have hit them in such a way and caught them and like so unawares that the first hit would have killed each of them. But I haven't have all the evidence yet. We're still in Inquisition phase and we haven't gotten to the trial. And I have heard the trial is all the drama mama. Had Mr. Dolan, this man here, come, the medical examiner, could not tell you. Had they found Mrs. Borden at that time? Yes, or she would not have told me. Where did you see Lizzie when you got in there? I think in the dining room. Who was she with? That I could not tell. How many people were in the house, do you think, when you got there? I don't know. I think 6 or 7 or 8. There was quite a number there. Were there any people out on the street? Did not see them when I went in. You did not see any excitement in the yard or to the street. Nothing to attract my attention at all. The car you came down on came straight down Pleasant Street from where you got on? Yes, sir. How far is it up there? I should think a good mile. Was not there a good many people in the street about that time when you came down? I did not see anything to attract my attention at all. Did you not see anything to attract your attention to the house when you went by? No, sir. Saw nothing to attract my attention at all. Nobody in the house at all. All I could see in was in the screen door. I went right by the same as I would on any occasion. Did you get your pears? Yes, sir. Then started for the house? Yes, sir. Did you stop to eat the pears? I think I was eating one when I went to the door. All I gotta say is these pears must be freaking amazing because everybody's stopping to pick some pears. You had the guy that got the pears who was sitting on the wood pile and then jumped over the fence. You had Lizzie eating the pears. Now you have her uncle eating the pears. They must have been some amazing pears. Tell me, please, as near as you can, who you sold there that you can name when you got into the house. Why, the first 2 that were right together were a man named Sawyer and the servant girl Bridget something. Maggie, we will call her. Trying to hide Bridget, but we already know from the last volume it don't work. Yes, the next I recognized was Dr. Bowen. There was such an excitement, and I was nerved up. I saw a number. I noticed Dr. Bowen right away. Did you see anybody else you did not know besides those 3 and Lizzie? Yes, Lizzie. I don't know of anyone else. I cannot say now. How many people altogether in the house? 7 or 8, I think I saw. I don't think more than that. What officers were there? I could not tell you. Some officers have talked with you since that time. Were any of the officers that have talked with you there then? Could not tell you. I did not notice. Did you know anything about the condition of Mr. Borden's property? Nothing particular. Had he ever talked with you about his property? Some occasionally. Ever give you an idea of how much he was worth? No, sir. Did he ever talk with you about a will? Yes, sir, he has. When was the last time? Somewhere within a year. When you were there at the house? No, sir. I think we were outside at the time. What was the talk? He said he thought he should make some bequest outside of charitable purposes. He did not say any more either one way or the other. Did he say he had made a will? He did not say. He did not say whether he had or not, whether he had or had not. Did he talk as though he had intended to make a will? I judged from that he was intending to. I drew my conclusions that he had not, but was thinking of it. Did he mention the bequest outside he thought he should make? He did not. How came he to be speaking about it? Common conversation, I suppose. Same as about his land. Or he bought the birch land. I was down there with him. He says, so let's go up Main Street. We went up. He says, here is a piece of property. Don't say anything about it. I have got a chance to buy. What is your opinion about it? I asked what it could be bought for. I don't know, as he told me direct, but about. I says, I think it is a good property in the heart of the city. The city will be coming towards it all the time. I believe it will be a good investment. Several months afterwards, one Sunday, he says, John, I did as you told me to. I said, what is that? I forgot all about it. I bought that birch land. I can legit relate to that. Like so many times people are like, what do you think about this? And I give them my opinion. They're like, I totally took your opinion and like I did exactly what you said to do. And I'm like, I said what? Where, when, who, how? I wish you would recall the conversation about the will as explicitly as you have this. That is all he said about the will. He thought of making some bequest out, for charitable purposes. His farm over there. He was talking about the old ladies' home. I don't know, but I would give them this if they would take it. Was that the same talk? I don't think it was the same time. Did he talk to you any other time about a will? I think that is all. That is the first and last time. Years ago out west at my place one time, he said he had a will. Several years ago, he told me he had destroyed it. How long ago did he tell you he had destroyed it? 15 years ago. Did he tell you anything about the contents of the will? He did not. All right, everyone, that is it for the Uncle John Vidicum Morse. And we will pick up later with Emma. So we finally get to hear her side of events. Emma L. Borden. What is your full name? Emma L. Borden. What does the L stand for? Lenora. You are older than Miss Lizzie? Yes, sir. What is your age? 41. How old were you, as near as you can recollect, when your father married the second time? Just a trifle over 14. So that you probably remember your mother? Yes, sir. Have you lived at home most of the time? Yes, sir. Have you ever lived away from home? I was away at school about a year and a half. That was some time ago? Yes, sir. Did you go to Europe with your sister? No, sir. When was it she went? 2 years ago this summer, I think. On how long? 19 weeks. How long had you been away when this tragedy happened? 2 weeks. Visiting in Fairhaven? Yes, sir. Where were you visiting there? 19 Green Street. Who? Miss Helen Brunell and her mother. What time did you get back? I came on the train that left New Bedford 3:40. You came right to the house. You went up to Weir Junction and came down. Who sent for Mr. Jennings? I think I did. I know I did. In relation to administration? Not then. I have no business to ask you what you sent for him for. Did you ever hear your father speak of a will? No, sir. Did you understand that he had a will? I knew he had one. I did not know whether it was destroyed or not. Now, because it's been a while, you guys may not remember who Mr. Jennings is. But that is Lizzie and Emma's lawyer. So he's basically saying that when she came home, the first thing she did was contact her lawyer. But because of attorney-client privilege, he can't ask why she contacted the lawyer. Honestly, in my opinion, it's just a good idea. When was it you understood that he had one? Oh, I don't know. A long while ago. A number of years. Yes, sir. More than 10. Well, I don't know. It seems as if it was longer than that. How did you get the information that he had a will then? My uncle, John Morse, told me. That is not the one that is in the house now. Yes. Did you not hear that it had been destroyed? No, sir. That is, your Uncle John never told you that? No, sir. Did you know anything of the provisions of the will? No, sir. Now that is a little bit interesting because now we have John knowing that there was a will made. And if you remember his testimony from the last episode, he was like, yeah, my ex brother-in-law like mentioned he had a will, and then he kind of like mentioned he destroyed it, and I wasn't really paying attention. But he also mentioned that to his eldest niece, and she could have told that to Lizzie, and neither one of them knew, at least at this point we don't know that they knew, that the will was destroyed. So they're under the presumption that there is a will, and we don't know how much that he has been that John Morse has been telling them about the will, because there was also mention that that Mr. Borden was talking about leaving a good sum to widows, to the widow's home in the area. It was not before your father married the second time, was it? That my uncle told me. No, I don't think it was. Was it about that time? It don't seem as if it was as long ago as that, but I am not sure. Have you never heard your father speak of a will? No, sir. Had you ever talked the matter of the will over with your sister Lizzie? Had you ever talked over the matter of a will with your father with your sister Lizzie? I had wondered if there was one, something like that. That was all. When do you recollect was the last time the subject was mentioned between you? I can't tell. I don't know. Were you away a good deal of the time and mostly at home? Mostly at home. Who kept the house? Your stepmother, that is? Who had charge of the management? Yes, sir. She filled the place of housekeeper? Yes. Did you have yourself any particular duty in connection with the house? Some things I always did. What were they? I always took charge of the parlor, my sister and I. We always took charge of the guest chamber and our own rooms. That is, you and your sister did that? Yes, sir. Not your separate duty, but yours and hers. I did most of it. Sometimes she assisted. Did your mother never have charge of the guest chamber? I did not know that she ever did. When I was home, I don't think she ever did. You don't know how it happened that she was having the work of the guest chamber on the morning that she died? No, sir. Any other duties that you and Lizzie did about the house? Regular duties, I mean. No, I don't think there was anything that we did steadily, just as we felt. If we wanted to, we did. Did Lizzie stay at home most of the time? I don't know how to answer. Do you mean that she went away out of town visiting? The question perhaps embraces that and day absences too. She was out a good deal of days, but she was not always visiting very much. She did not go out to work? No, sir. You mean she was away at other places? Out visiting friends, and she had a good deal of mission work and things like that she did. Did she usually eat with the family? Just as it happened. If she was there, sometimes she did, and a good many times she did not get in. Did she usually have breakfast with the family? Hardly ever. Did not get up soon enough? No, sir. Did you? Not always, but oftener than she did. Yes, sir. Who did the marketing? Father or Mrs. Borden? I don't know. Who usually? I don't know. One or the other. Do you know where the marketing was done? No. Did it have any particular place? We always had the groceries from Mr. Wade's and John M. Dean's. My sister used to order a great many things from John M. Dean. Was that a meat market? No, sir. Where was the meat usually purchased? I don't know. Who usually purchased the meat? Father or Mrs. Borden. Do you know anything about those axes that were said to have been found downstairs? No, sir. If you guys are finding her lack of knowledge of how the household runs to be suspicious, I legit don't. I cannot tell you the amount of times that I've talked to people and they just let other people in the house handle everything. It's like just not in their wheelhouse. And they're just like, yeah, groceries come somehow. And I don't know if so and so has a will. Like, never thought about it. Do you know whether there were two axes downstairs before about this time? No, sir. Do you mean by that you don't know whether there were or not, or that you know there were any, or that you know there were not any? I don't know whether there were or not. There might have been for all you knew? Yes, sir. You had no occasion to use them, of course. No, sir. Probably did not have a great deal of business down cellar. No, sir. The water closet, I believe, was down cellar. Yes, sir. Besides that, you did not go down there very much. Not very often. I had nothing to go for. A short-handled hatchet, it is said, was found down there. Assume that it was. Do you know anything about that? No, sir. Do you know whether your father kept any such instrument or not? No, sir. That is, you would not know whether he did or not. I know the farmer used to come over and cut up wood. I suppose he had something to do it with, but I don't know. Whether any such instrument had been previously kept there, you don't know. No, sir. I never saw one, but there must have been one. Assume there were three found. Yes, sir. I think I have seen a hatchet down there in the wood room. I am quite sure I have. You understand, of course, what I mean by a hatchet. A short-handled, wide-bladed instrument differs from an axe in being wider bladed. Well, I don't know. It's like they're all the same animal to me. So thank you for clearing that up. I guess this is an axe I mean. I don't know which I do mean. If I saw them, I might tell. An axe is longer handled and smaller bladed. The blade of an axe don't differ much from the shape of that. Not quite so long about that shape. A hatchet is shorter handled and is more such shape as that blotting paper, the handle going in there and wider at the bottom. I cannot tell you which it was. I don't remember. When do you think you saw whatever you did see there? I haven't any idea. Sometime before that or recently. I should say it might have been several months that I had not been in the wood room for anything. Your remembrance of it, as far as you have remembrance, is that it was a hatchet. I cannot tell which. You spoke of a hatchet. When you describe them, I don't know which it was the most like. You don't know of anything being done with an axe or hatchet that would cause blood to come on it, do you? Not unless father killed pigeons with them. I don't know whether he did or not. You did not see him kill the pigeons. No, sir. Further than that, you have no remembrance of anything that would cause blood. No. Do you know of anybody that was on unpleasant terms with your father? Only the rumors that I have heard since I came home. At that time, did you know of anybody before you went away who was on unpleasant terms with your father? The marshal produces an instrument which is something between an axe and a hatchet. I don't know whether that means that the stenographer doesn't know whether it was an axe or a hatchet herself, or she was like, no, this is like a mushed up version of an axe hatchet. I can't tell. I just know there was something there the farmer used, but I have no idea. I did not hear the answer if you did make one to the question I put, whether you knew of anybody that was on bad terms with your father. There was one man he did not speak to. Who was that? Mr. Harrington, a connection of his first wife. No, sir. His sister's husband. Did that extend to his sitter as well as the husband? No, sir. She was on good terms with the family. Yes, sir. Came there to visit? Yes, sir. He did not come. No, sir. He did not come to the house. No, sir. But she did. Yes, sir. He had been to the door to call my sister or I. He was not particularly on bad terms with you or your sister? No, sir. Did you know of anybody who was not on good terms with your stepmother? No, sir. I don't think I did. And yes, Harrington is the same police investigator who did the witness statements. I have so many problems. I don't know why this is still allowed in modern society, why we still allow investigators to investigate family members and friends and coworkers. That should not be a thing. I also don't know why that coming from somebody who is used to the military moving, we move every 4 years, sometimes less. The majority of us do anyway. Why cops don't implement this same thing is beyond me. You're only allowed to be at a specific department for so many years, and then you must transfer to a new location. It seems like it would solve a lot of the dirty cop issues. Not that it entirely solved all of the military issues, but it helps to control them. Or any trouble she had ever had with anybody. No, sir. Were the relations between you and your stepmother cordial? I don't know how to answer that. We always spoke. That might be, and not be at all cordial. Well, perhaps I should say no then. Were the relations between your sister Lizzie and her mother what you would call cordial? I think more than they were with me. Somewhat more than they were with you, but not entirely so, you mean perhaps. I do not want to lead you in all. I judge from your answer you mean that, or you don't mean that. You say somewhat more than your relations were. Do you mean they were entirely cordial between your stepmother and your sister Lizzie? No. Can you tell me the cause of the lack of cordiality between you and your mother, or was it not any specific thing? Well, we felt that she was not interested in us. And at one time, father gave her some property, and we felt that we ought to have some too. And he afterwards gave us some. So her story about the property does match up with Lizzie. That they're like, hey, you gave her property. What about us? We're your kids. That, however, did not heal the breach, whatever breach there was. The giving of property to you did not entirely heal the feeling. No, sir. That was some time ago. Yes, sir, some time ago. How long after he gave the property that he did give to your stepmother was it before he gave some property to you and Lizzie? Well, not very long. He did it because you and Lizzie claimed that he ought to do it, I suppose. That is, you put in a claim that he should do it. No, sir, we did not. How then did he happen to? A friend came to us and told us that he heard him say that he thought of giving us the homestead on Ferry Street and advised us to ask for it. How often has Mr. Morse been in the habit of coming to the house? Just as it happened. That is, sometimes oftener and sometimes not so often? Yes, sir. That is, since he had been here this time? Yes, sir. It was not an unusual thing for him to come and spend the night? Oh, no, sir. Did you know he was coming here this last time? No, sir. Did he ever write to any members of the family? He wrote to me, and I think to father. A regular correspondence? No, more than once a year. I mean, before he came east. Oh, I corresponded with him regularly when he was west. He was enough of an uncle then to be a correspondent. He's a very dear uncle of ours. Oh, mine. You corresponded with him regularly? Yes, sir. How long has Maggie worked for you? I call her Maggie. Her name is Bridget. Did she go by the name of Maggie? My sister and I called her Maggie. How long has she worked for you? I think it is 3 years this fall. It may be 4. Did she used to wait on the table? Not always. I mean in the sense of standing around the table as a waiter does. We generally waited on the table ourselves. She would come in occasionally and bring anything we needed. She did not serve as a stand-up waiter, did not stand behind the party. When you got home, was she at home? Thursday night. Yes, sir. What did she tell you about it? She did not tell me anything. I don't remember asking her but one question, 2 questions. What was that, please? I asked her if she would stay with us. If the other one has no more to do with this matter than that, I don't care for it. I asked her if she saw Any boy come with a note? I do not remember asking her any other questions. You never have seen the note that you speak of? No, sir. You have not been able to find who sent it? I have not tried. Have you looked for the note? No, sir. Do you know whether your stepmother was in the habit of destroying her letters? I don't know, but I think she did. I am not sure. Did she receive many? Not that I know of. Did your father use to preserve his letters mostly? Did your father preserve his letters usually? I don't think he did, unless they were business letters. Before you got home that night, you did not hear Maggie say anything about where she was when the thing happened. I love how he keeps calling her Maggie, and everyone's like, no, her name's Bridget. He's like, well, I'm going to call her Maggie. No, sir. Nor have you any talk with her at all. No, sir. Did you see your sister when you came home? Yes, sir. What did she say about it? I don't know. There was so much going on. I don't think I'll trouble you with a question anyhow. Did you use to keep the back door, the screen door fastened? Was that the habit of the household? Indeed, to when they were in. How about the front door? We locked that with a spring lock. Did the spring lock work? Once in a while we would find it did not, but very seldom. The few times it did not work, did not come from the fact that the door was not slammed to enough to catch the spring. I suppose that might have been it. You had not had it repaired? No, sir. It is in the same condition now it had been. Yes, sir. You have lived there since the tragedy. You are still living in the house. Yes, sir. It works as well now as it did. There is no difference in it. So far as I know, it does. Was it the habit to keep the front door locked with a spring lock? Yes, sir. How about the bolt and the big lock? We used those only when we went to bed. When did they get unlocked in the morning? Usually when my sister or I came downstairs. One or the other unlocked them. I understand you are not feeling well. No, sir, not very well. I have omitted a good many questions I would have asked you on that account. And that was it. That was short. I really expected Emma to have gone much longer in her inquisition, but no, that was it. So everyone, what do you think about Emma's testimony? I had neck surgery. I've had C3 through C6 fused, and I am still in recovery, and we'll be going over Dr. Seabury Bowen. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and maybe recommend the channel too. All right, everyone, let's dig in. Dr. Seabury W. Bowen. Dr. Seabury W. Bowen? Yes. You're a physician? Yes. You live next to the Bordens? Yes. How long have you lived there? I lived across the street from Mr. Borden 20 years. You undoubtedly were well acquainted with the family. Yes, sir. And intimately so? Oh, yes. Neighbors. You were their family physician? Yes, sir. They did not need much doctoring. No, sir. Had you attended Mr. Borden recently, previous to his being killed? No, sir. Had you given him any bismuth powders or anything of that sort? Well, we're just in this a few seconds and we already have to go and be looking up some words here because I have no idea what bismuth powder is. A fine metallic powder with a low melting point, high density, and diamagnetic properties. It is used in various scientific and industrial applications, including metal alloys, solars, pharmaceuticals, and cosmetics. Okay, so we do use it for pharmacy. You can tell I'm not a pharmacist. Bismuth powder is soft, brittle, and oxidizes when exposed to air. Common side effects: tongue discoloration, black stools. Used to treat gastrointestinal orders, including gastric ulcers, dyspepsia. I know I've done a blog post about this before, and I really should go into a video on it. But a lot of times, names for medical things in particular simply change over time. And the example that I gave in the blog post was I have a rare disease. Currently, it is called intracranial hypertension, but it has also been known as pseudotumor cerebri or fake brain tumor. They decided to change that name because it doesn't give the severity of the actual disease. They changed it to idiopathic intracranial hypertension. They decided to change the name again because the word idiopathic did not lead to the severity of the actual disease and is currently called intracranial hypertension. So a lot of these words are simply a disease known by another name. Had you given him any bismuth powders or anything of that sort? No, sir. Do you know whether he had such things around the house? I don't know. Have you ever prescribed them for him? No, sir. Or for any member of the family? Not that I remember of. I don't think I have. So far as you know, was he a man that knew enough about that branch of science to take medicine himself if he had occasion to? That is a question I could not answer. I am sure I don't know. Assuming the bismuth was found in his stomach. You would not have any idea how it got there. No, sir. You had not been called that week to the family. No, sir. I had not been called. I went over to see them the day before yesterday, Wednesday morning, about 8 o'clock, or before 8. Mrs. Borden came to the door and said she was frightened, said that she was afraid she was poisoned. I told her to come in. She sat down and she said the night before, about 9 o'clock, she and her husband commenced to vomit and vomited for 2 or 3 hours until 12, I understood. Okay, if that happened, I wouldn't assume I was poisoned, maybe food poisoning, but my mind wouldn't leap to being poisoned poison. What morning was this? Wednesday morning. I asked her what she had eaten for supper and she told me. She said she had eaten some baker's white bread and she had heard of baker's cream cakes being poisonous and was afraid there was something poisonous in the bread that made her vomit. She said she only ate cake and baker's white bread. At that time, she had a sort of an irritation of vomiting slightly. I was afraid she was going to vomit there. I rather got ready for her. I told her to go home and told her what to take, and she took it. Do you recollect what it was you prescribed for her? I told her to take some castor oil and take it in a little port wine to take the taste off. Probably that would be all she would want. Think immediately after breakfast. I thought they were neighbors. I would just go over. Before that, she said Lizzie came down. She heard them vomiting. I think she was in the next room. And she was up too. And she commenced to vomit at that time, about 12. I thought if they did not call me, I would go over and make a friendly call. I went over after breakfast. I think Bridget let me in. I am very sure it was the front door. I says, Mr. Borden, what is the matter? He looked at me and wanted to know if anybody had sent for me. I told him no, Mrs. Borden was over. I thought I would just come over and see. He seemed well enough then. He said he felt a little heavy and did not feel just right, but said he did not think he needed any medicine. I did not urge him at all, of course, and I went home. I did not think much about it. I saw Mr. Borden out 2 or 3 hours afterwards. When I went in, I saw Lizzie run upstairs. Mrs. Borden I did not see because I had seen her before. Did you see Lizzie that morning? She was just going upstairs as I went in the front door. I thought it was her. I'm not quite sure. It was somebody you thought was Lizzie. Yes, sir. Somebody I supposed was Lizzie. I did not see her face. And you did not talk to her? No, sir. You did not see them again to speak to them before they were killed? No, I did not see any of them to speak to them, I don't think. I am very certain I did not. Where did you afterwards see Mr. Borden? Did you see him Thursday? I don't remember of seeing him Thursday. I might possibly. I saw him Wednesday, walking along between the side door and gate. Lizzie I saw walking up the street, and I concluded they were all right, all of them. You don't recollect seeing Mr. Borden out on the street Thursday at all? I don't recollect it. Did you see Mrs. Borden on Thursday? No, I did not see her Thursday. I don't remember. Did you see Lizzie on Thursday before you were called in? I don't think I did. I don't remember seeing any of them. I started off probably at 9 o'clock. You go out on your travels at 9 o'clock or thereabouts. I intend to. Get back when, or no habit about it. I intend to be around probably once an hour if I can. What was the first information that you had of the tragedy? I drove up to my house, and my wife came to the door and made a motion, and she says, they want you quick over to Mr. Borden's. At the same time, I think Thomas Bowles, a man that works across the street, told me. At the same time, I don't know which was first. I thought probably they were worse. So I went right over quick. When you got there, who did you find? I found Miss Lizzie. Anybody else? Bridget. You were the first outsider then to get there. I noticed that he's not correcting the doctor from saying, being like, we call her Maggie. He's just like, yeah, this is Bridget. Let's just get on. Get on to the meat of the substance here. So far as I know, Mrs. Churchill had not then got there. No, sir. Did Miss Lizzie speak to you? Yes, sir. Tell exactly what happened now. I went to the door and I met them in the hall. I went in the side door. I thought I would get in there quicker. I was so much in a hurry, I happened to go that way. I met Miss Lizzie in the hall and Bridget. I says, Lizzie, what is the matter? I spoke pretty quick. I says, what is the matter, Lizzie? She said she was afraid her father had been stabbed or hurt. I think the word stabbed was used. I says, has there been anybody here? She said no, not as she knew of it. I would not say that she said no. I take that back. She said not as she knew of, I think. She said she had overheard her father several times talking loudly recently, and said she was afraid of some of the tenants had had some trouble with them. That is just as near as I can remember it. That conversation took place immediately. That took place immediately, the first thing. I says, "Where is he?" The door was shut, as it usually is. I never saw it open hardly, between the kitchen and the sitting room. I went through the dining room. You said, "Where is he?" What answer did she give? In the sitting room. She beckoned along through the dining room. I went through the dining room to the door between the dining room and the sitting room. It was directly at the head of the sofa. As soon as I got at the door, I could see the whole room and saw him. Of course, I was prepared for something awful, as I did not hear him and there was no sound. He lay there still and recognizable. His face was cut in such a manner I never should have known who it was. I stepped in a second, looked around the room to see if there was any disturbance. It struck me like a flash to see if there was anything left in the room. Then I went right back again and told them that their father was dead. I took hold of his pulse and found he was dead. Satisfied myself. I did not know that he was when I saw him. I took hold of his pulse and found him pulseless. Then I went back and informed them that he was dead. Then what? Then what did she say to that? What did she do? I can't tell. I don't know. I was stunned myself. What was said about the mother, if anything? There was an inquiry made. I don't know whether I made it. Somebody said, "Where's Mrs. Borden?" Where is Mrs. Borden? Lizzie said, I think she said she had a note this morning to go and see a sick friend. That is all. Such a serious affair as that. I did not stop and could not do anything. I was satisfied of that. In that time, I said I must go and get some of the officers right off. Perhaps I said I would get the officers. Lizzie said that Emma was in Fairhaven and wanted me to telegraph her. Before I went out, she said, "If you telegraph to her, perhaps she will come on this noon train." I went directly across to my house and told my wife and told her about telegraphing. I was satisfied she could not come on the noon train direct. So my boy drove me down to the telegraph office and I telegraphed to Miss Emma Borden. You had not then heard that the mother had been killed too? No, sir. Then I went across to Baker's drugstore. I mentioned the boy to come along. I stopped 2 or 3 minutes there and told them of it. When I came out, I got in my carriage again and drove directly to the house again and stopped at Mr. Borden's door and went in. There were no crowds there at the time that I remember of. I drove up on his side and told the boy to stand there. So now we're really getting into how the rumor spread so quickly that the Bordens were dead. The first thing the doctor did was go to the drugstore and be like, "They dead. Yeah, saw it dead as a doornail." And you know, they went all about talking to everybody else because that would have been sensational news. The whole lack of TV and internet and smartphones and all that. But then again, my trial hunters already know that anything that is going to involve a trial is going to be entertaining. It is human nature is still some of the greatest entertainment on earth. Had the crowd begun to collect around there then? No, sir. The news had not got around? No, sir. I don't know as I saw anybody going in at that time. Then I went directly to the same side door and was met there by Mrs. Churchill and Alice Russell. I think Mrs. Churchill, I am sure, one of them or somebody. I think Mrs. Churchill said, "They have found Mrs. Borden." I said, "Where?" She said she was upstairs. "You better go up." Then I went upstairs, up the front stairs. Yes, went up the front stairs. As I got to the top of the stairs, as soon as I got up on the second story, I could look right over the Deb, and I saw her lying there flat, prone. My thought was that she had run up there and fainted. I went right around the foot of the bed and satisfied myself in an instant that she was not living. I don't know whether I got hold of her pulse, but I satisfied myself some way. I don't know how, that she was not living. I went right downstairs again and told them Mrs. Borden was dead, killed the same instant. I think I said that. When you looked over the bed and saw the form on the floor, where were you? In the hallway? I think I must have been. I don't think I should probably have looked until I got up to the top of the stairs. I could, if I had been looking, have looked as soon as my head got level. I might have seen her under the bed. I went directly up fast, and as soon as I looked in the door, I looked over the bed. So where she was lying, you could see it from the head of the stairs. Not exactly. You would have to come up to the head of the stairs and go back a little. You went downstairs. And what then? I told them she was dead. then it is pretty confused. The rest of it along there for some time. I could not say who they were exactly. They kept coming and going. I told Bridget to get a sheet and covered up Mr. Borden and kept the door shut so the women would not see and let the men go along. Oh, the crime scene being so open. Doesn't that just rankle you guys? Just like, I just covered them up with a sheet, just let every Tom, Dick, and Harry just come through. We just covered up the body so that the poor women folk don't pass out from seeing a dead body. But everybody else just going right through. It's fine. Not the time for an open house. When you came back from going down the street, who did you find there besides those you named? I named Mrs. Churchill and Miss Lizzie Borden and Miss Russell and Bridget. Do you mean when I came back from upstairs? No, downtown. Whether Mr. Sawyer was there before I got back from downtown or directly after, I cannot tell myself. Mr. Charles Sawyer was there very near, I think, the time. Was he a neighbor? No, I don't know where he does live. I have known him some time. When you came down from upstairs, were more there? Yes, my wife was there then. I told her to go right home. Had anybody else besides your wife come? Could not answer to that. If you were not sure Mr. Sawyer had gotten there when you came in from downtown, was he there when you came down from upstairs? I know he was there, almost the first man. I could not swear to that. How long before the police officer came? Pretty soon after that. I don't know whether Mr. Allen came before Sawyer or not. I don't think he was there before it started downtown. Before you came back from downtown. Could not say. So far as you remember now, excepting the three that you have named, Sawyer possibly, and Mrs. Churchill and Alice Russell were the only ones who had got there. And Bridget, no outsiders had got there but those three. If they were all there when you got back from downtown, I don't remember of seeing anybody. I would not want to say. It did not take you a great while to go down and back. I drove right down to the telegraph office quick. Your horse was there already. Yes, sir. You notified the police office. I notified somebody there to get the police. I told them at the house. When you came back? Yes, sir. At the house. The second time you came to the house, the crowd had not begun to collect. I don't remember of seeing anybody on the sidewalk. There was no carriage there as I drove up under the tree close to the door. You do not remember of seeing Morse when you got back the second time? No, sir. Nor when you got down from upstairs? No, sir, not directly. I did not see him for some little time. I don't know when. Had the crowd begun to collect a great deal when he came? Yes, a great many were there. I can't say who. People that I knew. I knew almost everybody that came in. Did Bridget have anything to say when you first went into the house at all? I don't know. I can't remember. Was Mr. Borden's body warm when you felt of it? There was nothing that attracted my attention. The main thing was I found he was dead. Which would more likely attract your attention? Because coolness would attract my attention. He was pulseless. That is what would attract me. If he was cold, it would attract my attention. You infer inferently that he was not cold. I don't think he was cold. I think if he had been cold, it would attract my attention probably. It might and might not. I felt of his pulse and found he was pulseless, and found he was dead. It did not stop for a minute in the room, I don't suppose. All right, so they're getting on to the fact that the body should have been cold, at least in the police's point of view, that the body should have been cold. But the doctor's like, I don't remember it being cold, which implied the murder was so recent that the body hadn't had time enough to cool down. But I don't find this really sus because we kind of already knew that it had to have happened very quickly. If you're to believe Bridget and Lizzie's story, Bridget was outside, Lizzie was upstairs, and then the murder happened. And by the time they got back inside, he was dead. So of course the body would still be warm. So I'm not entirely sure why he's making a big deal about the body still being warm. As he looked to you when you went in, was it pretty plain that he was badly cut up? Oh, yes, sir. I did not recognize him. I should not have recognized him. Was the blood on his face? Yes, the blood was on his face and his eyeball cut directly in two. He lay on his right side, and the right side of his face was not seen. I saw the whole of the cut then, and none of the healthy part. Did you recollect how Lizzie was dressed that morning? It is pretty hard work for me. Probably I could see a dress, something like it, I could guess, but I could not describe. It was sort of drab, and not much color to it to direct my attention. Sort of a morning calico dress, I should judge. Did she change her dress? She changed her dress sometime in the course of 2 or 3 hours. I noticed she had on a wrapper, I think, afterwards. She did not do that until she went up into her room to stay. When did she go up to her room to stay? It is a pretty hard thing that time. Very soon after the crowd, I should say. It is pretty hard saying how long. I could not tell. When you first came, you all came to the side door. Yes, sir. Where was the standing exactly? I could not say exactly whether she met me at the end of the entry or where. I could not say. I have the impression now that she was at the side door and opened the screen door, and the door was half opened and ready for me. That is my impression. Where was Bridget? She was very near. The entry is very short, and she was very near. I could not say exactly. What was Miss Lizzie's appearance and manner? Well, she was excited and, well, it is hard to describe it. She was somewhat excited, in a hurry for me to come, in tears. No, sir. What was Miss Bridget's appearance and manner? She was calm, so far as any excitement on her face was concerned. She was uneasy and excited in action, but not in her face. I don't think I am prepared to say much about that. Perhaps you did not take much notice of Bridget. I did not take much notice of either of them. The main thing was to see what the matter was and get at it quick. Conversation with relation to Mr. Borden's having had trouble with some man was all right there. Yes, before I went in to see him. She said, Mr. Borden, I am afraid, is injured or father. I don't know whether it was Mr. Borden or father. I'm afraid he is stabbed. And just the same as I have said. Was it not very apparent when you went in that he was not only stabbed, but very much cut up? Was it not very apparent that he was very badly cut up? Yes. Have you attended Miss Lizzie since that time? Since it was done, yes, I have seen her every day. Has she had any physical difficulties, been ill? I ask mostly on account of the newspapers. They say she has had fainting fits. Nothing more than I should expect, nothing special, no more than I should expect from anybody that is undergoing a severe strain. Has she not fainted? No, sir, not fainted. By the way, I might put it in. It does not connect, but I will go back to the time when I came down the second time. I can describe her condition at that time when I came downstairs the second time, after I found the mother was dead. Miss Russell was at her side in a chair and was working over her at that time. In a minute or two, she got her into the dining room on a sofa or lounge. At the end of that, she was lying down and she was fanning her and had wet cloths put on her head, and they're working her over in that way. Was she faint? Not as I know of at that time. As I found two people murdered there, I suppose the rest would take care of themselves pretty well. Had you known of anybody working around the house there recently before that? No, sir. I did not know of anybody. If they had been, I don't know as I should have known it. Do you know whether Mr. Borden kept axes or hatchets? Oh, no, sir. You did not go into his affairs enough for that? No, sir. Never went into the cellar in my life, as I remember of. Were you intimate enough with the family to know what the relations were between Mr. and Mrs. Borden? In what way? As husband and wife. Were they cordial and intimate and affectionate? So far as I ever saw, I never saw anything to the contrary. That is all I can tell, of course. You had no reason to suppose to the contrary? No, sir. Had you enough knowledge of relations to know what the relations were between Miss Emma and her stepmother? From all I ever saw and heard directly myself, I don't know anything but what they were. If you want hearsay, I can tell all there is in the papers. What did you know of the relations between Miss Lizzie and the stepmother? I think the relations were. I should judge by what I have seen, seeing them together a good deal. I should judge that the relations were harmonious and perfect and natural. Did you ever hear Lizzie say anything about her stepmother? I don't think I ever did. How did she address her, do you remember? Well, I don't know. I am sure I don't remember. I never was in the house except on business affairs and connected with sickness. Suppose Miss Lizzie and Miss Emma should say that the relations were not pleasant. Would you be surprised from what you have seen of it? If they should say so, I don't know anything to the contrary. I don't know anything in favor of it. I spoke from all I ever saw and heard directly myself. Did Miss Lizzie tell you at any time where she was when this thing happened? The first time when inquiry was made, where Mrs. Borden was. No, did she tell you where she was herself when her father was killed? Yes, she said the first time, or won't say when, very early, that she was out of doors, out to the barn, had been out a while. Did she say how long she had been there? No, I don't think she did. I don't remember her saying how long. I don't doubt, but I asked the question where she was. She said she was out in the barn. Didn't she say what she was doing there? She told me sometime, I don't know whether just then or a short time afterward, that she was looking after some irons or tins. The remark she made the first time was she was looking after some irons, not flat irons. I mean irons. It might have been pieces of iron. Irons was the word used. Says I, where was Bridget? I don't know, but I asked Bridget. Somebody said one of them, Bridget had been washing windows, and she went upstairs and was upstairs when those questions were asked. Whether it was before I went down to telegraph or after, I don't know. I have the impression it was before. When was this that Lizzie told you she was out around looking for iron? I have the impression it was very soon after I went over first. Were you the first one to see Mrs. Borden? No, sir, I was not. I was sent up by Mrs. Churchill. Mrs. Churchill says, we have found Mrs. Borden. I says, where is she? She is upstairs. Go right up. Did you notice then whether the front door was shut or not? If it had been open, I think I should have known it. You did not attempt to go in or out the front door? No, sir. You did not notice whether the front door was open or not. If it had been open, I think I should have noticed it. I don't think it was open. Did Miss Lizzie have her meals sent up? You say she went to her room and stayed there? Yes, they got some toast. I think they went over to my house across the street and toasted some white bread for her. I don't think she ate it. I don't know about that, though. Perhaps they got some tea. Was Dr. Abbott there? Dr. Abbott was there sometime. Not that day? Yes, that day. I got a rumor that some comment was passed between you and him about the size and quantity of the amount of food that was sent up to her. Between Dr. Abbott and I, never a word. I would swear to that, not a word. I did not know anything about it. Never anybody except my wife has mentioned the fact. I knew Alice, I think, came over and got some tea and white bread toast, and I think my wife said she did not eat any of it, and something to that effect. I accidentally heard of it, that is all. Was Mr. Borden a man of quick temper? Well, no. I should not hardly think he was a man of quick temper. If they were going upstairs, does not that front door, if it is open, does it not shut off the stairs? You cannot go upstairs when the door is open. You have to shut the door to get up. The hall is so narrow. Is not that so? Perhaps so. Don't it open back against the stairs? Perhaps it does. I should rather think it did, as a design flaw if there ever was one. At any rate, did you have to get rid of the front door to get upstairs? No, sir. If the door had been open, I should have seen it. Your impression is that the door was shut. Yes, a very decided impression that the door was shut. The marshal reminds me to ask you, don't you think on recollection, the first man that got there after you did was Officer Allen? Could not say. It might have been. Do you remember of saying to Mr. Allen, go and get the police as fast as you can? I said that to somebody. I was excited. Have you been able to fix the time when you first went over to the house? I have changed my mind on the time. I had no means, only guess at first, but I deliberated. And finding out as near I can, I must have been. I must have stopped my horse in front of my house not very far from 10 minutes past 11. That is about 10 minutes earlier than I thought at first. But on asking my boy, he told me where I was at a certain time when the clock struck. By thinking it over sufficiently, I think it was earlier than my first impression. My first impression was just an impression. What was your first impression? Between 20 and 25 minutes. On further reflection, and judging from what my boy told me where I was and who we met at a certain time, I think it must have been quite a good deal earlier. About what time do you now think it was? Not very far off from 10 minutes past 11. It might have been 5 or 10 minutes either way. When I drove up to the house and went in. When you got the news and went in. Yes, sir. I could not have stayed in there more than 5 minutes. I went directly to the house and down to the telegraph office and must have been back at 11:30. You think you did stay in the Borden house 5 minutes? I don't believe it was more than five. I'm only guessing. Do you think it was more than two? It might not have been. Who was the first person you notified of the thing? The first person was in the baker's drugstore. Samuel Flint was in the drugstore, stood at the counter. I told him Mr. Borden was murdered. That was on your first visit downtown. I went directly from the telegraph office right to the store across the street. You wrote a dispatch there. I wrote a dispatch and paid for it and sent it. Have you looked at the dispatch to see what time it was? No, sir, I have not. I suppose the time would be on that. That would show exactly the time. That was the first thing you did afterwards. I drove directly to the office from my house. Had you just as lief go with Mr. Seaver over there and get out that dispatch and see if it marks the time? Yes, sir. After writing the dispatch, you told Mr. Flint. Yes, I went directly across South of Main Street. I was well acquainted with Mr. Flint, and I told him about it and then left him and got into the carriage and drove back again to the Borden house and went in a second time. You did not notify any policemen or anything then? No, sir. How soon after you got back the second time? Was it before the officer got there? I don't know. I could not say. Where was you when the clock struck 11? My boy said that I was on South Main Street and we met a fire department team near the head of Union. We heard the clock strike. You mean your own son, my driver? You don't know anything about that message from Mrs. Borden to go out nursing somewhere that day? No, sir. Is your boy around here now? Yes, sir. Now you figure from that it would take you something like 10 minutes to get down. No, it would not take over 5. How do you get at the 10 minutes? I have a leeway of 10 minutes. I did not mark it definitely. And that is the end of that. I can't say I'm a fan of how they just into these. He's just like, I gave myself a leeway. I know I should have taken 5, no more than 5, but I give myself 10 minutes, because things crop up. Cool, no more questions, dude. You're out. Like, what? Wait, what? What? Like, but to summarize real quick, the whole purpose of this was to establish the timeline of the 2 bodies being found, who was present, and if you notice, there was a lot of questioning about Bridget in Lizzie's behavior. It felt to me, and it may feel differently for you guys, but it felt to me as if the officer doing the inquest expected them to be wailing and fainting and crying everywhere and just incredibly over dramatic the way we make fun of women in those times. They need the smelling salts and all that to revive them. Things that didn't actually happen, but we like to pretend they did. But it definitely feels like he's zeroed in on Lizzie and possibly Bridget. But we're going to have to see where that goes. Today we're reviewing Adeline B. Churchill and her statements to the inquest. And yes, everyone, I did get my neck brace off. My vertebrae are officially fused, and I can even turn my head. To get more on that story, go visit the member space over on Coffee. Now, let's dig in. Adeline B. Churchill. What is your full name? Adeline Buffington Churchill. You live in the next house to Mr. A.J. Borden? Yes, sir. Up or downstairs? Downstairs. And all over the house, there is only one family. How long have you lived there? With the exception of we moved away from the house a while the day the granite mill burned in October, and we were away until May. I think we have lived there the rest of the time, 42 years. So you were well acquainted with the Bordens? Very well acquainted. Do your windows look out on their yard? On the south side of the house, they do. Is that the side where your living part is? The kitchen was on the south side and 2 lodging rooms. The sitting room windows face the west. One long window in the sitting room faces south. Do I have a tendency to give everybody a southern accent? Yes. Because if you're asking me to do a Bostonian accent, you are asking the wrong southern woman. And after watching the Karen Reed trial, I learned that the people from Fall River apparently have a weird accent, at least according to one trooper who resided in Canton. Were you at home that Thursday morning? I was down street. I went from the house near 11 o'clock to do my marketing. Do you know where the Bordens marketed? I don't. Think to Whitehead's. I'm not sure. Who usually did the marketing for the Bordens? Mr. or Mrs. Borden? Mrs. Borden went a good many times out. I don't know that. I don't know their private affairs at all. Up until 11 o'clock. Had you been at home? I was at home until about 11. Had you seen any of the household or anybody else in the yard? I saw Mr. Borden, I should think about 9 o'clock, the hour he usually goes down street. I was in my kitchen doing kitchen work. I happened to see him out in the yard. You saw him going out? Yes, he was going as if he had been out in the yard, out in the barn, coming out around the back steps. He went out on the street? I don't know. When I looked at him, he was standing there by the steps as if he was headed for the street to the west. You didn't see him go to the street? No, sir. I was tending my work. I did not look after. He went by. Did you see any other members of the household? No, sir. I saw the girl later washing the windows. How much later was it she was out washing windows? It might have been 10 o'clock. I can't tell. Washing windows on the outside? Yes, sir. And that does actually matter. I don't think that's been covered previously. I personally just assumed that Bridget was washing the windows outside, but that is a distinction because nobody actually said she was washing windows outside previously. They just said she was washing windows, but she could have been washing the windows from the inside. Inside of your windows need to get clean too. But if she's washing them outside, there's the chance she wouldn't have seen somebody sneak in to murder the Bordens. But if she had been washing them inside, how could she not have seen them since it was an upstairs and downstairs murder? So good clarification on the Inquisitor's part. How long you say she was out there that you saw her washing windows? I can't tell. I stepped into my bedroom for something. I saw her throwing water up onto the parlor window. She was washing the parlor window then? Yes, sir. Do you remember how long before that time she had been out washing the windows? Whether that same week or the week before? Don't think she washed windows but once a week, and Thursday was generally the day. It was a habit to wash windows once a week. She generally did. Did you see her wash any other window besides the parlor window? No, sir. Did you see any other member of the household beside Mr. Borden and the girl? I did not. You did not see anything of Mr. Morse? No. Did you not see him go away? No. Nor did you not see Miss Lizzie out in the yard? No, sir. Or any other person, not a member of the household before the tragedy? No, sir. I did not see anybody pass out there that morning. What was the first thing to which your attention was attracted? I was coming down Second Street. I had been to Hunter's Market. I got about halfway between Mrs. Bert's house and mine, and I saw Bridget going from Dr. Bowen's door over to the Borden house, running, and she looked as if she was scared. That was the first? Yes, sir. How far were you then from the house? Halfway between Mrs. Bert's house and mine. I went in my back gate. Were you twice the length of this room? It was a good deal further than that corner. Twice as far, perhaps? I can't get at distances. You and me both, lady. Don't ask me how many feet are 250 feet because I'm just going to look at you confused. What time, as near as you can judge from everything, was that? I don't know. I think it was about 11 o'clock when I started out of the house, somewhere in that vicinity. I knew I had got to get down street and get back time enough to get potatoes for dinner. So I did have them at 12 o'clock. I only gave a short order, did not stay long there, and came right back. What was the first thing you did? I went into the house, stepped through to the kitchen, laid my parcels on the bench, which runs right across one of the south windows that looks into Mr. Borden's backyard. At the screen door, standing by the screen door, I saw Lizzie as she was in great distress. How did she show that? Perhaps she rubbed her head. I knew something was wrong, of course, by the appearance. I opened one of the south windows. One had a screen in and the other did not. And I says, "What is the matter, Lizzie?" She said, "Oh, Mrs. Churchill, do come over. Somebody has killed father." I went right through the house and went out the front door and went over. When I got there, she sat on the second stair, which is right at the right of the screen door as you come in, the back stairs. Crying? No, sir. I put my hand on her arm this way and said, "Lizzie, where is your father?" She says, "In the sitting room." I said, "Where was you when it happened?" She said, "I went to the barn to get a piece of iron." I said, "Where is your mother?" She says, "I don't know. She had a note to go and see someone that was sick this morning, and I don't know, but they have killed her too." She said, "Father must have had an enemy, for we've all been sick, and we think the milk had been poisoned." Thus she said, "Dr. Bowen is not at home, but I must have a doctor." I says, "Shall I go and try to find someone to go and get the doctor?" Now that I think about it, the milk poisoning is interesting. What year did Louis Pasteur start to pasteurize milk? And what year did that happen in the United States that became normal? Because raw milk can make you very ill if it's not drunk incredibly fresh. Hmm, that is something to ponder about. Was it truly poisoning in the milk, or was it just bad milk? Or was it simply an excuse all along to cover up a murder? I know that is a popular theory. What was that? She said, Dr. Bowen is not at home and I must have a doctor. I says, shall I go, Lizzie, and try to find someone to go and get one? She said, yes. I went out and ran across the street because I knew the young man that worked for us had gone in a yard where they sell horses, Mr. Hall's yard, with with a carriage he had been washing in our yard. He was going out of the yard that day when I went in with my bundles. I went across and called for Thomas Bowles. I says, someone has killed Mr. Borden. Go and get a doctor. I don't know where he went. I went back. Soon after I got back, she says, I shall have to go to the cemetery myself. Oh, no, I says. Lizzie, the undertaker will attend to all such things as that for you. They generally do. Very soon, Dr. Bowen came in, and I said to him, he is in the sitting room. Dr. Bowen went directly to the door that opens from the kitchen into the dining room. At the right of the door, as you come into the back entry, just beyond it, and Lizzie and Bridget and I, Bridget had come back. She had been for Alice Russell, a friend of Lizzie's, and had gone back. And Lizzie, Bridget, and I went as far as the dining room. Lizzie sat down on the lounge. Bridget and I stood there. Dr. Bowen went into the sitting room, came out, and shook his head and says, that is awful. He said to me he was very much confused. Addie, he says, won't you go in and look at Mr. Borden? I says, oh, no, doctor, I don't want to see him. I looked at him out in the yard this morning. He looked nice to me. I don't want to see him. He says, perhaps it is best you should not, or it is just as well. Lizzie says, doctor, will you send a telegram to Emma, my sister, for me? He says, I will do anything for you. She wished him not to tell the worst, if he could help it, for the old lady where Emma was visiting was feeble. She had better not have the shock. He went out. I think a policeman by the name of Allen came in back of him, and Charles Sawyer, a man that lived below us on Second Street. Miss Russell had got there in the meantime and asked Mr. Sawyer if he would please tend the door so that no one would come in that had not ought to come in. So we stayed in the kitchen. I found Alice Russell sat down on a rocking chair with Lizzie, and Lizzie had her head on Alice Russell's shoulder. Mrs. Dr. Bowen came in a few moments and came and stood beside me. Miss Lizzie did not seem to know Mrs. Dr. Bowen. She asked who that woman is. Miss Russell said, that is Phoebe Bowen. Bridget was in the kitchen at the time. Lizzie says, I wish someone would go and try and find Mrs. Borden. No, Dr. Bowen said he would like a sheet to cover up Mr. Borden. Bridget was to go and get it. Lizzie told her to go up to a small room adjoining her mother's room. I think she called it a dressing room. I went with Bridget because she did not want to go alone. I stood in the doorway of the little room while she went to the bureau and took out 2 sheets. She says to me, is 2 enough? I says, I should think a plenty. I came downstairs and Dr. Bowen took one and the other sheet was laid on the dining room table. I am not sure, but she handed me both of the sheets, and I laid one in the dining room table. Dr. Bowen went in, I presume, to cover up Mr. Borden next. Then Lizzie said she was someone would go and try to find Mrs. Borden upstairs, so I went with Bridget. I think Bridget went ahead of me. I got halfway up the front stairs. I got just far enough so my head was level with the front entry floor. I turned my head to the left, and in turning my head to the left, I could see straight across to the spare bedroom floor at the north side of the bed. I saw something that looked like a prostrate form or something. I could distinguish nothing. The room was not light. It was a little darker than downstairs. It looked more than any mat would be on the floor. I turned around and went back. I don't know whether I said out loud, that must be her. I think Bridget went upstairs. How far she went, I don't know, because I was so shocked. I went downstairs, went into the dining room, and Alice Russell says, "Is there another?" Yes, she's up there. When Dr. Bowen came in, I says, "Dr. Bowen, you must go upstairs in the spare bedroom." And he went. That part happened while he was out. I don't think he was in there. I can't tell certainly. I told him when he came in that he must go upstairs. After that, there was a great deal of confusion. I did not stay very much longer after that. I went into the dining room, told Lizzie I must go home. If there was anything I could do for her, I was willing to do it. She said perhaps there was something later that I could do. Well, one thing is for certain, we were right in our earlier assumptions that Mrs. Churchill is a gossip. Mrs. Churchill has the mind of a gossip. All those tiny little facts of who said what, when, and where, she has got them clapped down in a steel trap mind. Go her. Before Dr. Bowen came, you came before he did. Yes, we stood in that entry. I went again to find a doctor before he got there. You got back the second time before Dr. Bowen came. Yes. While you were gone, you went to where Thomas Bowles was? Yes, to L.L. Hall's boarding stable on the opposite side of the street. It was after you got back the second time Dr. Bowen came? Yes, sir. Then Miss Russell soon came. Well, you were gone down to Bowles. There was nobody there, as far as you know, but Lizzie and the servant. I left her alone when I went. The servant had not got back from the other errand. Now, on a completely unrelated side note, I am curious about how common the Bowles name is. I'm going to have to look that up for my own personal research because I am related to the Bowles of West Virginia and Virginia. And this is just a short distance away geographically in the East. So I'm going to have to go see if any collateral line of mine is related to the Bulls in this case. And that's kind of the fun of where looking through the historical documents is it's like, hey, that's not too far away. And I have a familial line there. Could it be? And it gives you a little bit of a break looking at those brick walls that you have been staring at forever and just won't break. There's a chance that you just go on a fun little tangent and you're just like, nah, no, not it. Or it could actually pan out to be something. And you never know until you decide to give it a go. I left her alone when I went. The servant had not got back from the other errand. The first one that came after you got back the second time was Dr. Bowen? Yes, sir. Nobody went into the sitting room to see the body until Dr. Bowen went in? No, sir, not that I know of. When you looked and saw Lizzie in great distress the first time, was she standing inside the screen door? That was before I went over, and I was in my own house, and she stood by the screen door. Outside the door or inside? No, sir, inside, and the door was closed. Then you ran out the front door, around through the yard, and right over to where she was? Yes, sir, from my house. Personally, I wouldn't have noticed, and I wouldn't have gone over. I mean, I'm just saying. Like, if I noticed my neighbor was standing in a doorway looking a little kerfuffled, I would have been like, nah, and then gone about my day. But hey, go for it, Mrs. Churchill. How did you get through the screen door? Did she unhook it? I think I opened it myself. She sat on the stairs as I went in. It was not locked? No, sir. The girl had run again after she came from Dr. Bowen's. Did you see Mr. Morse before you went home? Yes, sir. He came before I went home. About what time in the order of events did he come? Both Mr. and Mrs. Borden had been found when he came. I think I was the first that let him in. I says, Mr. Morse, something terrible has happened. Somebody has killed both Mr. and Mrs. Borden. He says, what? And hollered Lizzie as loud as he could call her and rushed into the dining room. Alice Russell heard him and I think let him in. And he went into the sitting room, and the door was closed between the sitting room and the kitchen. That was after both were discovered? Yes, sir. Was it pretty soon after both were discovered? I don't know. Was it before or after Mr. Allen got there? Mrs. Borden was not discovered until after Mr. Sawyer got there because I told Mr. Sawyer and what we thought we had found upstairs. Was there much of a crowd there when Mr. Morse got home? Quite a number out in the yard. They had not got into the house, a great many of them. Where did Mr. Morse come from? The back part of the yard, or from the street? Where did you first see him? He stepped up on the steps. I think he came from the east, the steps that come from the yard. but I am not sure. I can't tell you surely. As your memory is, there were some people in the yard at the time. I think the crowd had come. It is my impression they had. I don't know how much of a crowd there was until I went home. Can you give any impression you think would be of value as to how long a time elapsed after the finding of the first body before the finding of the second? No, sir. I have no idea of that. You knew nothing about the internal affairs of the household? No, sir. They were always the pleasantest to me whenever I was there, whenever I called there. I never passed pleasanter calls than in that house by every member. You did not know about what tools they kept down cellar? Nothing. Did you know anything about the relations between the girls and their father and mother? I don't. Did you ever notice anything out of the way about them? No, sir. Did you ever notice that they were cordial? I never thought they were as cordial as they might be, but I don't know nothing about it. What was it you observed that led you to think they were not? Because I never saw them together. Anything else? No, sir. I think nothing I can say that I know anything about. I know nothing. They always spoke in the pleasantest terms of each other when I saw them. I know nothing further. As far as you can observe, they went their way and she went her way. Yes, that is all I know about. Did you happen to see Bridget washing the windows inside the house that morning? No, sir. Lizzie said she was in the barn getting a piece of iron. Yes, sir. Did she explain to you then that she was going to do with the iron? No, sir. I never asked her. And she never has explained it? No, sir. Have you now told all you know of all that happened in your presence with relation to that affair? Yes, sir. And all that was said in your presence? I cannot tell you when she said it. I am very particular what I tell. She said once she wished somebody would try to find Mrs. Borden because she thought she heard her come in. Whether she sat on the stairs when she said it, I can't tell you. She thought she heard her come in. I can't tell when she told it to me, whether before or after I went after the doctor. She said it to me. You are sure you did hear it? Oh, yes. Was that the occasion of your going to look for Mrs. Borden? No, sir. After that, she said again she wished we would go upstairs and see if we could find Mrs. Borden. When she said she thought she had heard her come in, was said before she said she wished you would go upstairs? Yes, before that. Well, I'm glad you understood that sentence because I barely did. I had to read it twice. Have you now told all that was said in your presence that you have heard? Yes, sir. Did you see around there any indications of blood, such as bloody clothes or cloths with blood on them? I only went in the kitchen and entry until Dr. Bowen came in, and I saw nothing. No indications, bloody cloths or anything? No, sir. And she looked clean, perfectly clean. What dress did she have on, Lizzie? She had on a blue and white calico, blue and white with a deeper navy blue diamond on it, of a deeper shade of blue. This diamond was, as near as I can tell it, I am not observing of clothes. Oh, she's observing of human interactions, is what she's observing. She wants all the tea all the time. That is the pattern of the cloth? Yes, sir. The diamond was printed on it. Did she have on an apron? I don't think she did, but I can't tell you certain. Are you sure it was calico? No, it might be gingham. It is cotton goods, I think. It could not have been India silk or anything of that pattern. No, I don't think it was. It was calico or gingham, I think. I do not think she would wear an India silk in the morning unless she was going out. Do you think you would know the dress if you saw it again? I think I should. I never saw it near to, though, until that day. You have described it as fully as you can. Yes, sir. Was it all one piece like the dress you have on now? It was a looser waist, more like a blouse waist. All one kind of cloth as you are now. Yes, sir. Not as she, reporter, is, but all one kind. Yes, sir. Did you see any ironing board in the dining room? I did not. Did you see whether it was there or not? I don't think it was, but I'm not very observing. You did not carry the ironing board out? No, sir. Did you see any signs of ironing anywhere? I did not, to my knowledge. Did you notice the flax on the stove? I did not. You mean by that you did not notice anything about it, not that they were not there. I did not notice anything about it. You know what? I found that fair. Even if she wasn't a gossip, which we kind of established that she is. I mean, she told everybody about what happened. If you remember all of the police witness statements that we read earlier. But when she ran over, she was expecting some bit of gossip, and instead, she finds out that there's a dead body. And then after that, before she leaves, she finds out that there is a second dead body. So, given the circumstances, I am not surprised that woman who, for appearances, at least for us, is very concerned with human interactions, is not noticing whether there are, flats on the stove or an ironing board out. She's more interested in how everybody is interacting with each other. So, I mean, personally, I could give her a pass on this. I mean, but, let me know. What do you guys think? Is this indicating that there's some issues with what Lizzie has said? We have different opinions on what Lizzie was wearing that day. Is that honest witness confusion? Did she change her clothes multiple times? Could it be an indication of guilt or not? Who took charge of things, of manners out there after this tragedy? Did anybody come in there that took charge of things? No, sir. Do you mean nobody did, or you don't know? I don't know if anybody. Miss Russell looked out for Lizzie and took her in the dining room soon after she came in, and the dining room door was shut. If anybody wished to see her, they had to go in there. You are pretty sure, Mrs. Churchill, that as you remember it, the waist was the same kind of stuff as the skirt. I am. I told you that I'm not observing as a great many. You took it to be the same? I did. Not different kind of cloth of a similar color? No, sir. You say the waist was something of the blouse order. Loose. Belted in? I cannot tell you how it was made. I know it hung loose there because I know Miss Russell thought she would open it to give Lizzie a better chance to breathe. Lizzie says, my clothes are loose. Did you not notice then the dress was the same kind as the skirt? I saw the waist had spots on it of the dark blue. I had seen it before at a distance when she came to the door from my window. It was navy blue with a darker shade blue and white, a diamond printed on the cloth. And that is it. I can't say I'm terribly happy. I know I've said this before, but I'm not terribly happy how these just end. There's no thank you for your testimony before this inquest. There's no nothing. There's just boom. I made a statement and we're done. It's just, but that is how they wrote it. So next time we're going to be looking at Hiram C. Harrington, which, as you know, I have issues with. Why are you investigating your brother-in-law's murder, Mr. Harrington? We didn't know at the beginning of this the two of you were related. This is your sister's brother, and this is your niece who is being looked at by the police, which, as a police officer, you would know because you were involved in the investigation. And there are so many issues with that because it raises the question, can you really be objective? Because either one, you don't like your niece and brother-in-law and are ready to get rid of them, or two, you're ready to cover up anything your niece has done wrong. If you're a police officer out there or in a position of any authority over an investigation and you know the parties involved, please do the morally right thing and recluse yourself. It is not a good look. Just say no to investigating those you are involved with. It is similar how a doctor is not supposed to treat their family members. There's just circumstances when it's right to say no. All right, everyone, that is it for today's episode where I have pretended to be a voice actor and once again failed tremendously. For today, we're covering Hiram C. Harrington, who was an investigating officer in the deaths of her parents, but also her uncle. So, everyone, let's dig in. Hiram C. Harrington. What is your name? Hiram C. Harrington? You live in Fall River? I do, sir. Were you related or connected with Andrew J. Borden? I am not connected with him any more than I married his sister. Dude, that, yeah, you know him, you're connected with him, you are his brother-in-law. Obviously some bad blood there, which makes you entirely inappropriate to investigate his murder. Is your wife living? She is. What part of the city do you live in? Number 12 Turner Street. And remember, guys, we have access to the Sanborn maps. So you should be able to pinpoint, if not exactly number 12 Turner, very close to where his house would have been. Is that in that neighborhood? No, sir. What part of the town is that? Up near the depot. And I do remember that the depot is definitely predominantly featured on the map. I will drop another link to the maps down below. And if you are unfamiliar with them because you're turning in late and you just kind of were doing these out of order, the Sanborn maps were created by the Sanborn Fire Insurance Company, but they were absolutely prolific. These were physical maps. They are now scanned and ready for you to peruse as needed, but they have a wealth of information. So whether you're into genealogy, family history, maybe even you just really want to nerd out about what kind of fire provisions people had back in the day, this would have them. It would also have the shape of a city, which can be pretty fascinating in and of itself. Were you on familiar terms with all the household? No, sir. Were you with any of them? Yes, sir. Which of them were you not? All except Mr. Borden. So he's saying that he's actually pretty familiar with everybody in the house except his brother-in-law. He couldn't give a flying fuck about his brother-in-law. Mr. Borden himself. Mr. Borden himself, you and he did not speak. You and he were unfriendly. You and he were not on good terms. We never had no words or anything of that kind. Some years ago, I thought he was hard, and I cut his acquaintance. That is, he came to my house, and I would leave the room. And he very soon saw I cut his acquaintance, and he did mine. Kind of, almost an adult way to handle that. I'm not sure what he meant by he thought he was hard. Maybe he just thought he was like a strict man or something. It would have been more adultly to, be civil, whether you like the person or not. But I suppose this is a close-ish second, is to just leave if you really, really can't stand the person. See, this is why I have a problem with Harrington investigating this case. He's saying, I don't like the dude to the point that when he comes over, I'm out. So shouldn't Harrington be a suspect? I mean, well, maybe not. No, I guess he would be ruled out. He should have been a suspect and then quickly ruled out because he was on duty at the time of the murder and he was with the other guy whose name is escaping me at the moment. We'll have to go back and look at that one. But you continued on good terms with the rest of the family. Yes, friendly to them. That takes in the wife and the daughters? Yes. Did you go to the house any? No, I did not go to the house. Any more than sometimes on business. That is, sometimes my wife wanted to send a letter or to invite the girls or something of that kind. I would go to the house. Sometimes I met him at the door and have spoken. Do you know what the relations were between the daughters and the mother? I did not go into the house. All I can tell is hearsay. That is from them. The stepmother never mentioned it in my presence. Did Lizzie? Lizzie has, yes. What has Lizzie said about it? I don't know as I could put anything together now to tell you any more than I tell you there was some difficulty some way. She thought, she equivocated. I don't know as I could put enough of it together now. I can just give you an idea. I can't remember words that were passed at the time any more than just this much. That she thought she equivocated. About what did she say? In regard to something about Bertie, that is Mrs. Whitehead, a half sister of Mrs. Borden. I think it was something about helping her, or that her father had bought the property. The general construction I have got of what she said, and from what little I learned, was that he had bought the property and gave it to his wife. And of course, that meant giving it to her half sister. Did Lizzie speak about it to you more than once? Sometimes it has been mentioned in a joking way, about the difficulties. I don't know as I could put enough together to say really what was past. So there was obviously some kind of bad blood. We've heard it enough times at this point about that property. And no matter which way you cut it, you have to admit that that would have been a lot of money in any time period to buy half of a property. So I could definitely see how they're like, hey, what the hell? You're buying your wife's sister's land for her? The fuck? I mean, I would be pretty upset if my dad was doing that. And then I'd just kind of like throw up my hands and be like, oh my God, I can't believe he did that. Well, whatever. But I'm also not financially dependent on my father. And Lizzie absolutely is. And Lizzie and Emma absolutely are. How long was the last time she said anything about it? I think last winter sometime. I have not seen her at the house for, I might say, all summer. And I have inquired of my wife how it was that Lizzie had not been down. Emma has always come. And the reply I would get from her was that Lizzie was into everything. That is, the works in the church, and her time was occupied. That is what I would get from her. When she spoke about it last winter, what did she say about it? I don't know, as I could tell any more than to speak kind of sneeringly of Mrs. Borden. She always called her Mrs. Borden or Mrs. B. I don't know as I could remember anything to put together to make any sense. Did she speak in an unfriendly way of her? Unfriendly? Yes. You never heard Mrs. Borden say anything about it at all. Never mention it. I have heard my wife say that Abby never mentioned it, but it was understood there was trouble in the family. Oh, yes, there has been, I guess, for several years, I guess, of his early marriage with her. Everything was very, very pleasant, uncommonly so for a stepmother. This trouble is of recent years, quite a number of years, I should think. They were rather reticent about telling these affairs, although sometimes it would crop out. You don't know of anybody that was hostile to Mr. Borden. Not a person. Well, that's not true. Okay, so like that's not true because he's saying that nobody was hostile to him, but Harrington was clearly hostile to him. He disliked him to the point that he wouldn't stay in the same room with them if he had a choice. So I'm guess he's saying like other than myself, nobody else disliked the man. Not a good look, bro. Nor Mrs. Borden. Nor Mrs. Borden. Was that the stepsister that married Whitehead? A half sister of Mrs. Borden. That is the one that married Whitehead that you have been telling about. Yes, sir. Okay, that's it. All right, everyone. And disappointingly, that was all we have about Harrington. He's just saying that, hey, I didn't like my brother in law to the point that I would leave if he showed up, but I'm also going to investigate his murder. And by the way, one of my nieces severely disliked my brother in law's wife. But don't worry, it wasn't that bad. All the hatred was said in a joking manner. And while I don't have the hot goss, I have the hot goss. But they didn't really plumb Harrington for a lot of information. And I feel like I could have gone on a lot more considering he was tied in with this family. And I can't help but wonder whether he got a pass from the Inquisition because of his position as an officer and worse yet, as an investigating officer. You all know by now, I got feelings about this. Things should be done right. Even if Harrington was above board and he was an honest guy and he never did anything wrong, we can't say that about the next cop who was investigating his family member's murder, where the lead suspect is another family member. It's a thing that just doesn't need to happen. But I'm sure you guys are done hearing my complaints about that. Today, we have Charles S. Sawyer up. He is Lizzie and Emma's lawyer. So let's dive right in. August 11th, 1892. Charles S. Sawyer. What is your name? Charles S. Sawyer. Where do you live? At 78 2nd Street. How far is that from the Borden house? The third house. The third house south, third house north. This way. Yes, sir. On the same side of the street? Yes, sir. Were you acquainted with Mr. Borden? Yes, sir. I knew him not intimately. I had had some business with him. Did you visit the family? No, sir. I was not in the habit. I had been there in the house. I used to go there once in a while to make some little purchases in vinegar and stuff. You were not a calling acquaintance of the family? No, sir. What was the first you saw that attracted your attention with reference to this matter? Oh, now that's something I want to know. Like, were you always his lawyer? Or did you like come on specifically as a defense attorney? It was pretty high profile murder. Not only was it sensational, and the double murder that somehow, by some miraculous way, took place around two other people in the house. That always blows my mind when that happens. And that they never saw anything, no idea what happened, just they were just up and murdered gruesomely. Or did you take it on because it was giving like a lot of attention because they were prominent members of the community? So I'll keep reading and let's find out. Because I'm sure you want to know just as much as I do. You know, we're both gossipy, and it's okay. I was in the machine shop opposite where I live, and a gentleman came in there, a drummer from Providence. and he reported that a man named Borden just above here had been stabbed. I started out to make some inquiries, and as I stood talking with the three gentlemen at the foot of the stairs, this was upstairs, I saw Miss Alice Russell going up on the other side of the street. Knowing that she had been a near neighbor and quite intimate with the girls, of course I went over to inquire if she had heard. She told me yes, she had heard and was going right up there, so I followed along to see if I could get any particulars about it. I went as far as the gate. She did not seem to be very talkative, but considerably excited. Running? No, sir, she was not running but walking quite fast. I turned to leave the gate and had not gone down some little distance from the gate. Officer Allen came along, and I walked along with him a little ways to see if he had heard anything. When he got to the gate, he says, "You better come right in. I want you to tend the door." So I followed him in. When we got to the door, he says, "Now you stand right here at the door and allow no one to go in or out. I want to make some investigation here." I don't know as that was the exact words, but that was the purport of it. So he went in and went through the house, I suppose, and I stood at the gate all the time. During that time, Miss Borden was in the kitchen with Miss Russell, Mrs. Churchill, and Dr. Bowen and the servant girl. That was all that were there at that time, except Officer Allen, who had gone in. When you got in there, who did you find? I found the servant girl, Lizzie Borden, Miss Alice Russell, the lady I had been up with before, and Mrs. Churchill. Dr. Bowen, I think, was there, and I could not say whether he had been there before and just gone out or not. I could not say about that. Allen went in with you. Yes, I went in when Officer Allen did. That was Miss Borden's appearance. Miss Borden sat in a chair in the kitchen. She seemed to be considerable excited, I thought, as though she was apparently grief stricken or something, although I might not be a judge in that respect. She seemed to be considerably excited and very uneasy, and the ladies seemed to be ministering to her, that is, bathing her face. Now, remember when they say excited, they don't necessarily mean it in the same way that we would now as excited as like upbeat and like, oh my God, we're going to go do something like really great and fantastic. They just mean excited as in your emotions in general are excited. So it could be she was very excited with grief, or her anxiety was excited. Literally just any emotion. Your lust was excited. It literally just meant any emotion was excited. They just kind of used it as a catch-all. Crying. I can't say that she was crying. I could not tell exactly. I did not go way into the kitchen at all until after that some little time I stood near that door. I know there was quite an entryway. Judge Blaisdell. Which door? At the north facing door, the side door with the screen and hook. And seeing as everybody processes shock and grief differently, and I'm not going to make any judgments on whether she's crying or not. And I know a lot of people are like, did you see that? Somebody died, like she found her family murdered and she didn't even cry. Well, yeah, she might not have. It's called shock. I've been in situations where I've been in shock and you're just trying to process because your mind goes blank and you're trying to figure out what to do and not understanding how things work anymore. And it does, it takes a while. And then later you process things have gone on and you're able to cry and scream and do all the things that you feel is appropriate to process your emotions. But if she's in shock, then that would explain not crying. Could also explain if she was a yeller. Some people yell. They just sit there and yell when they go into shock. Could you see into the kitchen? I could look into the kitchen. I could not see the whole of it, but I could see the biggest part of it. Did you go into the house? I walked into the door. I kept the door locked on the inside. I walked in at the door, the cellar, which was right close there. I bolted it. There was a bolt on the side in the entry. I did not know, but from the actions around there, there might possibly be somebody in there. What was the appearance of the servant girl? Anybody else kind of annoyed that they just keep referring to Bridget as the servant girl? Maybe it's just me. They also tried to rename her before. They're like, oh, we're just going to call her Maggie. And now they've just thrown that out the window because nobody was referring to her as Maggie and just they've gone to the servant girl. The servant girl appeared to be, well, somewhat frightened. I thought she acted as though she was considerably excited. Although she talked intelligently, anything that was said to her, and she seemed very willing to give any information that she knew anything about. Did you hear the servant girl say anything? Yes, I heard her motion something about that note that had been sent. What was it that she said? I heard her say something about Mrs. Borden saying she had received a note, but I can't seem to recollect just how she put it, whether she said Mrs. Borden told her or somebody else told her. I also heard Mrs. Churchill mention that fact. What did she say? I think she said that Mrs. Borden had received a note calling her out. At that time, I was not actually sure that Mr. Borden was killed. I understood he had been stabbed. You did not go in to see him? No, sir, not then. Finally, I went in. I says, is he dead? Yes. They says he is dead. Who said that? Mrs. Churchill says, oh, yes, he is dead. Dr. Bowen stood there and asked me if I would like to see him. I don't know. As he opened the door, he turned and pointed in, and I saw a sheet thrown over a body, some little signs of blood on it. Dr. Bowen asked me if I would like to see it. I did not particularly want to see it, but at that same time, I went in and I looked at it. They're just asking to do it. It's like, hey, you want to see the dead body? Like, you want to confirm that he's dead? And he's like, well, like, not really, but you said something. So now I feel like I kind of have to because weird dead body looking peer pressure. Sure, I guess. And I guess the sheet must have just been thrown over because I just have a hard time visualizing this. His face was hacked, and we have one officer, I don't remember if it was Harrington or Doherty or Allen, but they're like, it's got thin cuts, like cut by a razor. And I'm like, cool, they're not very deep then if they're thin razor cuts, but they would still bleed a lot because head, face bleeding, all the capillaries, all of them are like up in your head region. And then he's like, well, I couldn't even tell that he was dead. And I was like, but the other guy said that his eyeball was hanging out. So why do we have such hugely contradicting stories on this? I mean, he's saying like the sheet's over him, but there's only just little bits of blood on it, some little signs of blood. So I'm picturing in my mind just like maybe like a little speck here, a little speck there, blood, and that's like it. But I guess it's more than that. I mean, we don't know what he means by some little signs. Maybe his some little signs are some big signs to us, at least to me. All right, let's see. Did you hear Miss Lizzie say anything? No, I did not hear Miss Lizzie say but very little. I don't know that I heard her say anything that I could really repeat. She did speak to some of the ladies there. Were you there when Mrs. Borden was found? Yes, sir, I was. She was found some time after I had been there. Do you know how she happened to be found? Somebody had said, although I was out in the entry at the time, I understood it there was some inquiry made where Mrs. Borden was. Who made that inquiry? I don't know. What reply was made to the inquiry? I did not hear that. After the inquiry had been made, I stood at the kitchen, just inside the door, and Mrs. Churchill came up to me. Apparently, I'd come from some other part of the house. She says, Mrs. Borden is dying. She seemed to be quite excited. She says, Mrs. Borden is dying, I think from the shock. Where she got her information, I don't know whether she went up to see or not. And we do know because we've already read Mrs. Churchill's statement. She's like, I saw her on the ground. She was dead. And I guess she's now telling people that she just died of shock. I mean, she did say she did not want to go in there. She's like, not happening. I'm going back downstairs. Like, this is too many dead people for me. This is one too many. Like, one was a lot, two is too many. Were you there when Morse returned? I was there when Morse returned. I suppose the time he returned. Whether he had been there before, I don't know. Oh, okay. I get it. So he was there when the uncle got back, but whether the uncle was there, left, and came back, he doesn't know. Okay, I get it. Sometimes a bit slow on these things. Where did you first see him? He came towards me from the gate. I stood on the steps at that time, standing outside the door and holding the door outside. He came along to the step and he says, for God's sake, what has happened here? I looked at him. I had not seen him. He was a stranger to me. I told him Mr. or Mrs. Borden have been murdered, been killed, something to that effect. My God, he says. And I left Mr. Borden right at this door, and he told me to come back to dinner. How long was that after you got there, as far as you can estimate time? I should judge somewhere in the neighborhood of very near 12 o'clock or a little after. Of either way, I should say a little after. Where did you see him first? Coming from towards the gate along the walk. Whether he had come through the gate or not, I don't know. Was anybody with you at the time? I'm not sure about that. I don't think that there was, unless the servant girl might have been inside the door or somebody inside the door at the time. The servant girl would go out and in there through that entry sometimes when I was outside. He's like all up around there when Alan literally told him, like, guard the door. But I mean, I guess they just didn't have a lot of officers. I mean, we know a whopping three. We definitely know there's more from the way, way back. We know that there's more because when they were like the chief was like, go get so and go get so and so. But after the initial brief little look into the police station, we really only learned about three officers: Allen, Harrington, and Doherty. Was there much of a crowd there at that time? At that time, there was quite a little crowd there, in the house or out on the street. They had been driven out to the yard by an officer there in attendance. The officers were there then. Yes, when he came. Plural singular, so not many officers, just one officer showed up after Allen. I have a vague recollection of that. Oh, well, I just remember the three. Okay. So, sure, somebody else showed up. Were the people in the street? Yes, sir. Many. Well, yes, sir, I should say there was. My view was limited, not more than the width of the yard, but the fences appeared to be pretty well filled up. And previous to that, there had been quite a crowd in the yard. Did you notice whether Mr. Morse was eating a pear or not, or eating anything? Oh my God, what is with your pears? I guess he's thinking that Morse had been hiding out in the barn this whole time. Like he was just chilling, like he murdered and then chilling out in the backyard eating pears. No, sir, he was not when he spoke to me at that time. What did he do when you told him? My God, he says, what kind of a God have we got that will permit a deed like this to have been done? Something like that. Okay, a little hyperbolic, but sure. I mean, I get the gist of it, and you guys all speak weird to me. And I speak weird to everybody else because I'm from Charleston. So, fair, fair. What did he do then? He stood there a few minutes and finally went inside of the door. Whether he had been in before or not, you don't know. No, sir, he had not been in at that door before. That was the first time I had seen him. You had been near the door all the time. Yes, sir. From the time I went there with Officer Allen, I should judge that might have been a little after 11. He was at the door the whole time except for when he went to go view the body due to weird body viewing peer pressure. Have you any way of fixing the time when the thing was told you by this Providence man? Not exactly. Well, I was up in the machine shop. This gentleman came in and reported it, and he told a man there afterwards that he came from Providence that morning and had landed at the Mellon House. I judged that he came from the Mellon House directly to his store. I judged from that he came on the 10:30 train, although it seemed to me a little earlier than that. I thought I was there about 11 or a little before. I might be mistaken. I did not note or look at the time. Who was the man? He sells machinist supplies for a firm in Providence. I suppose Mr. Rich could tell that. I had seen him once or twice there, and I don't know who the man was. Is there any other fact you have not told us that you saw or heard connected with the affair? I went up to the room where Mrs. Borden was found and saw her lying there and saw the blood on the bed, or at least on the shams. Apparently, a smooch had struck me on the counterpane or coverlet. What? I don't know what that means. Okay, I get shams. That's part of bedding. Counterpane or coverlet bedding. Apparently, a smooch. It struck me. The only thing that comes to mind for smooch is like kiss, kiss, smooch. Sorry for the unintended ASMR there. Oh, he leaves him and comes back. Okay, let's get into this then. Okay. Did you see any more bloody cloths around there? No, except what was around Mrs. Borden. I did not stop there long. I thought I had got to stay to the door. I stayed there until 6 o'clock. Mr. Sawyer returns. I don't understand if anyone is talking here because it says he returns. I'm thinking this is a continuation of his last answer. While I was there, the story was going around with regard to a Portuguese or some foreigner that was working on the farm. Miss Alice Russell came to me and said that Miss Lizzie Borden was very anxious that that story should be suppressed because she said he was a very nice man and a very old and tired servant of the family, and she was deeply concerned about it. Miss Russell made this talk with me. Lizzie did not say anything about it. Oh, that's kind of nice. She's like, stop harassing the poor Portuguese man with his nose bleeding children. He like they have issues. Like they just randomly get nosebleeds and bleed over axes. Leave the poor man alone. And I agree. Just leave the poor man alone. His kids have nosebleed issues and axe issues. Was Miss Lizzie present at the time Miss Russell told you that? No, she had been sent up to her room at this time. When they came down and reported that her mother had been killed, she apparently went off into some kind of a swoon or hysterical fit. I don't know exactly what. And Dr. Bowen said she better be carried up to her room. Which room was she taken to? I don't know. I did not go up. Was it the front or back way? I could not say that either. Who went up with her? I think Miss Russell. Okay, that is it for Mr. Sawyer. And next time is Augusta D. Tripp, who I don't remember her name coming up. Did we have a trip? But I am so losing track of names, especially with my time off for surgery. We may have had a trip. There was a lot of people in the witness statements, a lot of people. I remember them harassing the poor Portuguese guy. Just can't help but feel sorry for that dude. Um, I think they only actually interviewed him once or twice, but it was written in the witness statements like so many times it felt like they were harassing him. And then they went on a big thing about trying to find some random guy who's asking for a hurried ride out of town. And he's like, I will pay you so much money if you just get me out of town. And then that just seemed to stop. Like they never figured anything out. So they're like, cool, Lizzie did it. Like we got nobody else. Lizzie did it. And I do have a feeling that they tried to pin it at least a little bit on Bridget. And then they're like, Lizzie's an easier one. I mean, it's like she's single at her age and she's like really into money. And and we haven't covered it in this, but did you hear that she goes to the gym and brags about how strong she is? Okay, I've only heard about that, so it's not in evidence yet. We don't have the evidence for that. But I'm really hoping that it's true and it comes in. But either way, I'm so far, I mean, we're only halfway through all the evidence we've been presented so far. And we have way more evidence than a jury would have. But I'd be like, just not guilty. You haven't proved anything for me yet. But we have tons more to go because we still have to finish the second part of the inquest. And I have legit forgot what comes after that. But there's still the whole trial to get through. So, all of you that are using me as a body double, come on, keep using me. It's fine. Just remember to hit that like and subscribe button. Don't forget to subscribe. Hell, leave a comment if it's just a little smiley face. The algorithm gods love it. Let's dig in to the inquest of Augusta D. Tripp. Augusta D. Tripp. What is your name? Augusta D. Tripp. Where do you live? Westport. Were you related in any way to Mr. or Mrs. Borden? No, sir. Or connected by marriage? No, sir. Did you know them? Yes, sir. I know them. Did you ever visit the family? Yes, sir. When did you first begin to visit there? When I was a schoolgirl. I think in the year 1875. Have you been visiting them since? More or less. Very little since. When was the last time you were there, do you think? To make a visit? Yes. I went there on the 13th of July of last year. Not this year? No, sir. I made a call there this year, but not a visit. How long did you stay when you were there the 13th of July? I went Monday and came back Saturday. Okay, like I don't get the difference between a call and a visit. I mean, to me, a visit is shorter. but maybe a call is shorter? I mean, because she's been there nearly a week, so she's staying with them. You were there nearly a week. Yes, sir. Was Miss Lizzie at home? Yes, sir. And Miss Emma? Yes, sir. And the old people? Okay, that's one way to refer to Mr. and Mrs. Borden. The old people. We have the young crowd and then the old people. Mrs. Borden, I did not see. Where was she? In Swansea, I think they said. During the whole time? Yes, sir. Mr. Morse was not there? No, sir. The same domestic, Bridget Sullivan, was she there? And we're back to Bridget. I mean, she's a suspect as far as I'm concerned because the only people in this house at the time of the murder were Bridget and Lizzie. Though it would be nice if they could agree on what to call Bridget. Bridget, Maggie, the girl, the servant, the domestic. Like, can we pick something and just run with it consistently? They always called her Maggie, the same girl that worked for them since. I have not seen her. I suppose so. I did not know, but you had seen her since the affair happened. No, sir. Have you seen either Miss Emma or Miss Lizzie since then very much? Since that visit? No, sir. I have only seen them a very short time. I think less than an hour. That was this spring I made a call. Where was it? I made a call on them at the house. Just made a call. Okay, we get it. You made a call, not a visit. Who did you see then? Miss Emma and Miss Lizzie. And Mrs. Borden? No, sir, I did not. You were acquainted with Mrs. Borden? A very little from meeting her with Lizzie. Your friends were more particularly the daughters? Yes, sir. Were you a schoolmate of either of the daughters? With Miss Lizzie. So that your most intimate friend in the family was Miss Lizzie? Yes, sir. Did you ever hear either Miss Emma or Miss Lizzie say anything about their stepmother? I have heard them speak of her, of course, and about their feelings towards her. I think I've heard them say but very little. Which one have you heard talk about it? I think Miss Lizzie. When was it you heard her talk about it? I could not tell you when. Was it the time of your visit there? Very little said about her. Mrs. Borden was away, and there was very little said about her. What do you remember of hearing Miss Lizzie say about it? About Mrs. Borden, then? Yes, or at any time. Well, I don't know what to tell you, for I have seen them so little that they did not go to tell me all their. I wanted to know what they did tell you that. That is all. It would be rather hard for me to remember what they tell me. Remember what you can. Do you remember what you told the officer about it, Mr. Medley? Did you have a talk with him? Yes, sir. I have had a talk with him. Do you remember what you told him? I don't remember that he asked me such a question as that. I answered his questions. What did he ask you? He asked me several questions, and I answered them. Had you any opportunity of observing what the relations were between the daughters and the mother, or between Miss Lizzie and the mother? Whenever I saw them together, they had very little to say to each other. They seemed to have very little to say to each other. Everything went along quietly. They did not seem to make very much conversation with each other. She seems very unsure about what she's even talking about. Whenever I saw them together, they just didn't talk. Okay, but she was a guest, so wouldn't the attention be focused on the guest instead of each other? Because I mean, maybe it's just my southern manners, but if you have a guest over, you don't hold a conversation excluding the guest. You involve the guest in the conversation. Maybe it's different in Massachusetts, especially in the 1890s and the 1875, she said, through 1891. Maybe the manners were different, and you excluded the guest and just had a little old chat yourself in front of them. Did they eat at the same table? Oh, yes, sir. Did you ever hear Mrs. Borden say anything about either Emma or Lizzie? No, sir. She made no talk. No, sir. I have seen very little of the family since I have been married, since I have been away from the city. What can you tell us about the relations between Lizzie and her mother, so far as you have observed it and heard it from Lizzie? All I can tell you is that I don't think that they were agreeable to each other. What made you think so? I have seen them together very little. What should make me think so would be if I were there, why, they did not sit down, perhaps, and talk with each other as mother and daughter might. They were very quiet. Okay, so she was there, then the mother and daughter were not paying exclusive attention to each other. I really don't get what she's saying. If you guys can figure out what she's saying, go ahead and put it down in the comments because I'm just not getting it. That is, they were together so little that you observed the fact. No, I don't think I should. They were around in the same room together, the dining room. I don't think I should. She didn't think she should observe the fact that they weren't together very often. Okay. Okay. They associated together so little, you noticed the fact they did not associate together. I noticed it. Not that they kept away from each other, not that at all, but that they did not enter into conversation, perhaps with each other, perhaps. She's using the word perhaps the way we would currently use the filler words or like. So if that helps you kind of decipher what she's trying to put down, maybe that'll help you out if you replace perhaps with the word or the word like. But she seems to be very carefully not saying anything. She reminds, oh, I mean, she could just be nervous because she is, I believe these were done in a courthouse because there's the judge present. So the inquest was probably done in a courthouse, which would definitely make most of us nervous. If we're not familiar with courthouses, we're like, why here? Why me? Can I not? So sitting there in a courthouse being grilled over a double murder with a axe hatchet, whatever instrument they settled on, would definitely make most people nervous. And if she's not a very self-assured person in the first place, I could see her kind of crumbling. But at the same time, I kind of get the feeling that she's very carefully double speaking. I don't know if you have this in other cultures, but in the South, we definitely have double speak. It's kind of like when somebody says, bless your heart in certain situations. It could mean, oh my God, like, I'm so sorry. Or it could have a very different meaning. Context is everything. And a bless your heart. Was that so with Lizzie as well as Emma? Or with one daughter more than the other? I think Lizzie talked with her mother more than Emma. Emma had less to say to her. Yes, sir. So she's saying both girls ignored her. Like maybe they just weren't very verbose. And neither one of them, maybe none of them liked pointless chit chat. They weren't small talk people. Because she's saying even Lizzie talked more than the mom with the mom more than Emma did. But Lizzie and Mrs. Borden still weren't all that communicative. So maybe they just weren't. What did you notice that led you to think that Lizzie and the mother did not get along well together, or were not agreeable to each other, as you expressed it? I don't know of anything. I can't recollect anything. What you noticed was the manner towards each other. Yes, sir. That is all, not from any words. Their manner to each other was not that of those persons that are agreeable to each other, or did not seem to be. Vibes. She got vibes. Nobody said nothing. Emma was even less talkative to the mom than Lizzie was. But she just, got vibes that they didn't like each other. When was it that you have seen them together? I could not tell you, surely. It is as much as 5 years since I have seen Mrs. Borden at all, which makes you not a great witness to any of this. What are you witnessing? Are you just here for character assassination? Because you're not here for character support. So all this was based on what was quite a while ago. Oh, yes, sir. He noticed it. He's like, yeah, you haven't seen anyone in 5 years? You haven't seen her in 5 years. So this is all stuff you remembered after the murders. The officer reports that you told him that Lizzie told you at some time that she thought her stepmother was deceitful. One thing to her face and another behind her back. Did he say I said Lizzie told me so? Yes. I did not think I told him so. It seemed to me that she did not like one way of appearing to her face. Deceitful. She could not bear deceitfulness, and she could not bear one thing to her face and find out another thing to her back. She could not bear deceitfulness. I mean, I get that. I'm a come at me, bro kind of person. So I was like, just say it to my face and then we can deal with it. And it irks me to no end to have people gossiping behind my back. Have I deliberately fanned the flames of gossip when I found out that people were gossiping? Yes. Currently, my husband's colleagues have no idea what I do for a living because I've told them 3 different things, none of which were technically a lie. I've just told them 3 different things. Was that what Lizzie told you? I could not say she told me that. That was the idea I got from what? Well, I don't know as I could say from being there, or from being with Lizzie perhaps, for have been there very little. Okay, so again, vibes. You didn't get it from being at their house because you were there only a handful of times. And you were very clear you were there for a call, not a visit. And she never actually said anything, but you got the feeling. Survives. You also told the officer that Lizzie told you that her stepmother claimed not to have any influence with the father. But Lizzie thought she did have influence with him. Yes, I think Lizzie thought she did. You think she thought. I often think people think. Turns out they're true, that they actually think most of the time. Turns out I'm normally wrong about what they think, unless they tell me. Did Lizzie tell you that her stepmother claimed not to have any influence with him? I don't remember any such talk. With relation to giving some property to the stepmother, Lizzie, from what I have heard her say, but I could not tell you the words, Lizzie said, but I gather from what I heard her say, it was a long time before I heard her say it, that she thought her mother must have had an influence on her father, or he would not have made a present to her half sister. It was a long time ago. Not expecting this to come up. I could not swear to one word Lizzie said. Okay, that's a lot of backtracking. I know I'm making way more comments than I normally do, but yeah. The gist of it, of what she's saying, for those of you who are not familiar with doublespeak, is that, hey, Lizzie didn't say this, but she totally thinks that her stepmom has influence with her dad, because why else would he buy a house for his sister-in-law? But it's not like Lizzie told me that. That's pretty much how this is going down, with a lot more nervousness. I'm picturing just kind of like this little tiny woman just kind of like curled up in herself and like not wanting to be in the courtroom and just like getting all of her words out like a really fast, like, oh, it just, it's not, it was a long time before I heard her say it, that she thought her mother must have had an influence over her father, or he would not have made a present to her half sister. It was a long time ago, not expecting this to come up. I could not swear to one word Lizzie said. That's kind of like the vibe, my vibes that I'm getting from this. This was all prior to the last visit. Nothing was said about this at the last visit. No, sir. Did Lizzie say to you she did not know that either Emma or she would get anything in the event of her father's death? I did not hear her say so. Who told you she said so? I think my invalid sister told me so. Lady, I'm liking you like less and less. Maybe that was a common way to refer to people back then. But why are you just dropping it down that your sister's an invalid? Why not just be like, my sister told me? What is her name? Miss Carrie Impool. She is very feeble. She lives on Madison Street, New Bedford. She's very feeble indeed. Why are you throwing your sister out now? You're already like double talking with Lizzie, saying that she said stuff, but she didn't say it, just vibes. Lizzie didn't say it, but she kind of said it with facial expressions and all. And now she's just like, my very feeble sister said it. You should believe me because my incredibly feeble sister told me. So, legit sources? Did you ever hear Lizzie say that? No, sir. I never heard Lizzie say that. The officer says you said explicitly, Mrs. Tripp, that Lizzie told you that she thought her stepmother was deceitful. One thing to her face and another thing behind her back. Not in so many words, but that was the substance of what she said. I don't remember her saying that. Do you remember of telling that to the officer? I remember very well talking to him that I thought Lizzie thought her mother was deceitful. One thing to her face and another to her back. I did not say Lizzie told me that. I cannot say so. I was taken very much by surprise at seeing Officer Medley come in, and I tried to tell, but those things were years back, and thinking they would never come up. I can't recollect word for word things that occurred years ago. I can't say that Lizzie told me she thought so, but it would be from little things I might have heard her say that would cause me to think she could not bear deceitfulness, being such an honorable person that she was. Square person. Okay, so I guess like square person is similar-ish to what it was in the 80s. I don't even think we use calling people a square nowadays. From TV in the 80s, calling somebody a square was like calling them rigid and nerdy and boring. I guess in the 1890s it was an honorable person. I still get the feeling rigid is definitely a word to be used for a square person. And why does she keep bringing up that it happened years ago and she never thought it would come up? I feel like she's implying that it's something that was said and should be brushed under. This is what I mean by double talk, people. Like this is what I'm getting at. It was like you say something incriminating and then you'd be like, but why? But why? Oh, I saw her there with an axe, but it's not like she was the murderer. She just had an axe and a murder's happened nearby. She would never murder anyone ever. It's all coincidence. I'm going to vehemently deny it. She never said she hated those people. I just kind of got vibes she didn't like them. So it's like incriminating someone without actually having to come out and say, yeah, I think she did it. So you're covering your bases. Did she appear to be fond of her stepmother in her talk with you? No, I don't think she was fond of her. Did she appear to be unfriendly towards her? No, sir. And that is the end of Mrs. Tripp's testimony, such as that was. I got nothing of substance out of that. I mean, all I got was a lot of gossip and double talk and vibes. So let me know what you guys think. I mean, is she just nervous having to be in court and be in front of the inquest? Do you think she's deliberately double speaking? Maybe a bit of both. What are you guys feeling about this testimony? You're probably feeling. Is that I interrupted way too much with commentary? But it is what it is. Normally, I don't have quite that many things to say. All right, everyone. That's the episode of Augusta D. Tripp. And today we have Alice M. Russell. So let's find out what she has to say about the day of the murder and what she knows about the Borden family. All right, everyone, let's dig in. Alice M. Russell. What is your name? Alice M. Russell. Where do you live? 33 Borden Street. How far is that from the Borden house? It's the next square. Between 2nd and Main Street? Yes, sir. Borden Street is the next street. You are well acquainted with the Borden family, all of them. So this is like really great if you're following along with the Sanborn maps because you can whip out the appropriate maps, look for Borden Street, look where the Borden household was, and be able to find her house fairly quickly to get a rough estimate on how far away that actually was. And because you're using the Sanborn maps, which were insurance maps, you would also be able to figure out what the houses were made out of. Yes, sir. Was it at your house Miss Lizzie was visiting the night before? Yes, sir. Spent the evening there? Yes, sir. When did she go home? I think about 9 o'clock. It may have been 5 minutes before or after. Was that quite a frequent thing for her to visit you? She has done so more this summer because she has not had quite so much outside work. We have always visited, been friends. Have you visited there a great deal? Yes. Sometimes perhaps I would go in quite often, and then again, quite a spell I would not go. When you went in, did you see the whole family or Miss Lizzie or Emma? I saw the girls mostly. Your acquaintance was mostly with the daughters? Yes, sir. Not so much with the old people. No, sir. It makes me wonder how old this guy is, that he's referring to them as the old people yet again. Now, you do have to remember, because I tend to forget because they keep referring to them as girls, the girls, that Lizzie and Emma were not exactly young, but still just referring to the parents as the old people. I'm hoping that my child and his friends don't refer to me and my husband as the old people. Where did you usually see them? Upstairs. What they used for a sitting room usually. Which room was that? What they call the guest room. It was used as a sitting room, generally, for them. Who used that as a sitting room? The two girls. Was that where they usually sat when they were at home? I think so. That is, so far as you know. So far as I know. Do you recollect the last time you visited them? The last time I visited them or visited there? Either one. I went there, I am sure. Once after Emma had gone to Fairhaven. Who were you more particularly intimate with? Emma or Lizzie or both? I don't think there was very much difference. What was the first you saw or observed or heard of this tragedy? I think it was about 11:15 when I saw Bridget coming up the steps. And my work is so I can see anyone coming up the steps where I was at work. I knew there was trouble because Lizzie told me Mr. and Mrs. Borden were sick the night before, very sick. So the first impression I got was that somebody was sick there. She told you Tuesday night they were sick. Yes, sir. I stepped to the door and I says, "What is it, Bridget? Are they worse?" Or Maggie. She says, "Yes, I don't know, but that Mr. Borden is dead." I don't know whether she said come over. I don't remember what she said. I said, I will come right over as soon as I change my dress, which I did. That may seem a little odd that she wanted to get changed before coming over, but one, they would have had house clothes and public clothes, like, your going out clothes. And it was, oh, I guess it wasn't fairly early, but it was early-ish in the day. So if you think about this, like right now in our time period, this would be like, you're just kind of lounging around clothes. And then you find out someone was dead, and you're like, oh, I can't show up wearing this. I mean, that, what? I'm going to get dressed and then I'm going to panic. Or other people may just out and out panic, but their idea of being proper when you go out was much more firm in their mind than we do nowadays. Like I've seen plenty of time people, go to the store and hair curlers and pajama pants, and you just do what you do, and everybody's like, well, whatever. I guess they had something important to do. It would have been absolutely unheard of in my grandmother's time. Absolutely. She did not tell you how he had been killed or anything of that sort. She did not? No. She said what? She says he is worse. I don't know, but what Mr. Borden is dead. You did not take much time to change your dress. No, sir, I did not. Probably not. She was probably panicked, even knowing that they were sick, and that I'm assuming from what she had just said is that she believes they were very ill the night before. Now someone's dead. They died of illness. So she probably would have gotten dressed pretty much in a hurry, but still presentable for being seen by who knows who. And we do know who because like half the town showed up. You went over as quick as you could. Yes, sir. When you got there, who did you find there? I had a very confused idea. I met Lizzie. At the same time, there was somebody else there. Who I don't know. Mrs. Churchill? I think so. Where did you meet Miss Lizzie? I think about the threshold of the kitchen door, where the screen door is. No, I think the kitchen door. From the hall into the kitchen? I think so. You found the screen door unfastened and went right in. Yes. Did Maggie go back with you? No, she went ahead of me. What was said and done when you were there, as well as you can remember it? I have a very confused idea of it. I have tried my best to have it clear. I met Lizzie and I said, sit right down here, Lizzie, in the kitchen. And she sat down. I don't seem to remember what she said or done, except she says, will somebody find Mrs. Borden? She seemed to be very much overcome. Did she tell you anything about where to look for her? No, sir. Then I remember of Maggie and Mrs. Churchill starting. And Maggie says, oh, I can't go through that room. Dr. Bowen says, get me a sheet and I will cover Mr. Borden over. They started and went after that. Then when I came down, I remember Mrs. Churchill saying, oh, Mrs. Borden, this way. Whenever she said or did give me that impression that she had gone too, I did not then know either of them were murdered. I supposed it was from this impression of the poison that I had had in my mind. I love the fact that even she is acknowledging that Mrs. Borden is quite a bit of a drama queen. She's like, oh, Mrs. Borden, this way. So you can just tell by the added words of this way that she is absolutely dramatizing it as she speaks. She's like, she said it this way. When did you first learn that they were murdered? I got Lizzie into the dining room, onto the dining room lounge, and we were there. I don't know how long, when her uncle came in. That is Morse. Yes, sir. And something he said about their being murdered, and looked up to her. Then it dawned on my mind that it was cold blooded murder. That is the first idea I had that it was murder. You did not see Morse until he got into the room where Lizzie was. No, I had not seen Mr. Morse for years before. That room where you were with Lizzie was what room? The dining room. The first room I was in was the kitchen. The sitting room was where the murdered man was. Yes, sir. Who was with you and with Lizzie? In the dining room. I don't think there was anyone. No one in the dining room except Mr. Morse came in. What did you find Lizzie's appearance and condition to be when you got there? Dazed. I suppose she made no talk at all, except what you have said. I don't know what she said. She said something. I says, Lizzie, don't talk. When you found her, she was in the kitchen, you say? Yes, sir. She went with you then into the dining room? Yes, sir. How long did you remain there with her? Remain where? In the dining room. I haven't any idea. Where then? I don't know whether I guessed or who suggested her going upstairs, but I know she went upstairs. Did you go up with her? I don't remember that. Were you upstairs? Yes, sir. I was up there. I think if I did not go with her, I must have been there very soon after. Did she go straight to her room so far as you remember? Yes, sir. Did she take off any of her clothes? Yes, I know. That sounds weird. I don't know what I was doing, but I came into the room and found her fastening a pink wrapper on. Did she change her shoes or stockings? No, sir. She could not have done that. I was not out of the room long enough. Did you remain there with her? Where and how long? How long did you remain there with her in her room after she got to her room? I don't know. I think she set me down. I don't remember. I can't tell it. I know she made this remark when she said it. I don't know. Something about an undertaker. She says if they have to have an undertaker, as I suppose they will, have Winwood. Did you stay until supper time or anything like it? What do you mean? In the room. I was in and out of the room all the afternoon. She remained in the room? Yes, so far as I know. When did you finally go home and leave the house? Somewhere near supper time? No, I don't think so. I went home near 6. I don't know. It seems to me it was daylight because I remember somebody stepping up to me and walking over home with me. You don't mean the next morning? No, I remember one of my old friends walking down with me and me excusing myself and going upstairs. It must have been before dark. Had Emma got there before you went home? Oh, yes. Who did you leave Miss Lizzie with? Who do you mean? In the house? She remained in her room, as I understand you. Yes, sir. I don't know who I left her with, but I think Mrs. Holmes and Emma. Mrs. Charles J. Holmes? Yes, sir. They were there. We intended, some of us, not to leave Lizzie. We knew the state she was in. When one was out, the other made a point to be there. Which was which, I don't know. That makes sense. You got a friend who just found out that both of her parents were murdered, and you kind of want to make sure they're not going to become hysterical and, I don't know, claw at dead bodies or something. I've never been in a situation where I've had to be present in the home where my parents were murdered, so I don't know how I would react. And I sincerely hope that none of you have either. At any time, did you have any talk with the servant girl that you recollect? I don't remember of ever saying a word to her or of hearing her say anything. No, sir. I did not hear Maggie talk much, and I have not at any other time. Did you hear Mr. Moore say anything about it at any time that day? I don't remember of anything. There might have been general talk. I don't remember of anything. Do you remember of anything that Lizzie said about it that remains in your memory? No, I have not asked her but one question all through it. Will you tell me what that is? Yes, sir. I asked her what she went to the barn to do. She says my screen and window. She gave me to understand they did not come together right or something. I was ironing handkerchiefs and my flat iron was not hot. And I thought I would go out and get that while I was waiting. What did she say she went to get? A piece of tin or iron to fix the screen. I found the handkerchiefs part iron and part damp. I took the damp ones and shook them out. Okay, see now we have a problem, Lizzie. I was kind of on your side. But if your story isn't straight, I mean, do people remember things exactly? Do they say like to one person, I was looking for iron for fishing reels to go fishing next week? And then they tell the other person, I was looking to fix my window and my window screen? No, Lizzie, they don't. Sorry. You're not looking too good here. Now, if you had told both of them using different words, but the same gist of it, that you were getting iron for your fishing that you're going to do next week, that would be different. But now you're saying you were in the barn for two separate reasons. So unless you can say that you were like, hey, I need iron for both of these things and I'm going to look for it for both of these things. You're not looking too hot here, Liz. But the part where she was ironing the handkerchiefs does appear to be true because now this witness is saying, yeah, I found handkerchiefs. They were half ironed and half still damp. Did you find the ironing board? I don't remember seeing it. A little ironing board. I don't remember it. When did she tell you of the piece of tin for the screen? The first day. I remember asking her that question and her answering me. I suppose you heard from somebody that she was at the barn? Yes. Do you remember who you heard that from? I think I heard her say it. I think somebody asked her in the kitchen before we went out, and she said she was in the barn, that she went to the barn. A piece of tin for the screen for which window? A piece of tin or iron. She says, you know, there is everything up there. And I went to see if I could not get a piece of tin or iron to fix it, the screen or the window. I don't know which she was going to fix. Do you recollect anything else that she said? I can't unless something was asked me. It might come to me then. I can't. As I am trying to tell you. Okay, no, that's legit. I mean, a lot of times if you ask somebody, like, tell me everything about an apple, people will tell you a bunch of stuff about an apple, and then you're like, but do you know how it grows? And they're like, well, yeah, of course I know how it grows. But you didn't tell me when I asked you to tell me everything about an apple. So I mean, it's hard to think of everything unless you're kind of prompted, it's like, but do you know this? But it's important to kind of have like open-ended questions, because if you have closed-end question, it like, kind of directs the person to an answer. So it's important to have those open-ended questions when asking someone. I do not like to ask this question, but I feel obliged to. Did you see enough to notice what the relations were between Miss Lizzie and her mother? You you don't like to ask the question? He doesn't, folks. Y'all heard him. He does not like to ask the question, but he feels obliged. Because I thought that was his favorite question. He's only asked it of every single person up until now, including asking it of Lizzie. In all my acquaintance, which is 10 years sure, and most of that time has been, part of the time quite intimate, I never yet heard any wrangling in the family. I have got to answer the question, and I will say I don't think they were congenial. What gave you the impression they were not congenial? Because their tastes differed in every way. One liked one thing, and the other liked another. So she's basically saying they were not. They didn't bicker, they didn't fight, but they weren't like particularly close because their differences were a lot. And there are definitely families like that. They're not hostile. The family members are not hostile to each other, but they're also not super close because they just have different interests. Were they together very much? I don't think they were very much. I suppose what you say about Lizzie is also true of Emma. About the same. It was not always the same, but it would be hard work to tell. I judge by your saying they had a sitting room upstairs. They sat up there a great deal. Their stepmother did not sit up there with them. I don't think so. Did you ever hear Lizzie speak of any trouble she had had with her mother? Yes, I suppose I have. I have heard her say that Mrs. Borden thought so and so, the same as any family. Did she express to you ever that she regarded her mother as untruthful or deceitful? I don't think she ever did. Did she ever allude particularly to any trouble she ever had with her mother? No, sir. Did she ever tell you what the trouble was? Nothing further than she was a stepmother. The whole thing was, as far as I could see, that any own mother might have had more influence over the father. It was the father more than the mother. What do you mean? The father was the head of the house. They had to do as he thought. Mrs. Borden did not control the house. The whole summing up of it was that. Were her relations with her father cordial? So far as I know, I never saw anything different. Were they congenial? I should not suppose they would be, knowing their different natures. The different natures of the father and mother and Lizzie? Yes, each of them. What was the difference in their natures? Mr. Borden was a plain living man with rigid ideas and very set. They were young girls. He had earned his money, and he did not care for the things that young women in their position naturally would. And he looked upon those things. I don't know just how to put it. He did not appreciate girls. No, I don't think he did. Their ideas were more modern than his with regard to the way of living, do you mean? Yes, sir. How did you get this? From the girls' talk or what you observed? From what I observed. Everybody knew that Andrew Borden's ideas were. He was a very plain living man. He did not care for anything different. It always seemed to me as if he did not see why they should care for anything different. Did they complain about it? Yes, they used to think it ought to be different. There was no reason why it should not be. They used to think it might be different. Lizzie or Emma or both. Both. There was never any wrangling between them. No, I never heard any. They had quite refined ideas, and they would like to have been cultured girls, and would like to have had different advantages. And it would natural for girls to express themselves that way. I think it would have been very unnatural if they had not. He did not give them the advantages of education that they thought they ought to have had. I don't know as it is just that, but people cannot go and do and have unless they have ample means to do it. Which stairway did she go up when she went to her room? The front stairway. Do you remember of Lizzie going into the room where her father lay dead after you got there? No, sir. We had to pass through. We passed through this way. Did you go into the hall? We had to. And had to go through the sitting room. And went right so. This is all she was in the room. I'm positive of until she was removed. Passed through the corner. Yes. Did she go into the room where her mother was? No, sir. This is an inquiry in which every person is interested to get to the bottom facts. Is there any other I have not asked you about, which you know which is material to the question that you have not stated? Can you tell me anything else concerning this matter that you have not already done? It is as much your duty to tell as it is mine to ask. Well, I am much better conditioned to tell it than I have been. That is one reason why I postponed it as long as I could. Is there any other fact that you can tell me that you have not told me? The morning of the funeral, I went out to do some errands, and when I came back, my hair was tumbled, and I took my dress waist off and combed my hair. When I had gotten through, I put my waist on again, and had nearly finished it, and I turned and I saw something in under the bed that frightened me almost to pieces. You were sleeping in the house? Yes, sir. That big stick? Yes, sir. It is the one you gave to the marshal, the round whittle stick. I legit forgot about the stick. Totally forgot about the stick. Yes, sir. Had you been sleeping in the house every night? Yes, sir. You slept there that night? Yes, sir. That is what frightened me so much. It was in my room. That was the room Mr. and Mrs. Borden occupied. Yes, sir. I occupied that when I was there. When you went into the daughter's room, did you have to go downstairs and come up? You don't have to if the other side was unlocked. After the tragedy, was it unlocked so you could go through? Yes, sir. It was open then? Yes, sir. After the tragedy, the door was unlocked? Yes, sir. So when you wanted to go to Lizzie and Emma's, you went in through? Yes, sir. When did you first see that stick? I think between 9 and 10. I don't think I could have gone longer than that. It was not while you were at the funeral? No, sir. When I came back, my clothes were there. My dress was there. I went into this room I had occupied to change my dress and turned when I saw it. Where was it exactly? At the head of the bed. Under? Yes, sir. How much in sight? So that I saw it as I turned? Had it been there before? I had not seen it before. Had you done what they say women do? No, I had not done that. Had not looked under the bed. No, sir. So it may have been under the bed all the time. Yes, I think in my frightened condition, as I look at it now, it might have been there. Then I was terribly alarmed because I felt as if in some way it implicated me. About as much as it implicates me, just about. Yes, as I look at it now. When you saw it, it was plainly visible. Yes, I saw the end of it. How much was it out, indicated by your fan? It was not out from under the bed at all. I could see a little ways under the bed. It had no flap hanging down, a modern French bedside. It was not a French bedside. It had no verlans. You would have been likely to have seen it before, that it had been in the same place. I thought so. Did you ever find out what it was? I think it was something that her father had kept in the house. Who told you that? I told it to Detective Hanscom, and he asked Emma. I don't think the girl knew anything about it that I found it. Is there any other fact that has to do with this matter that you can tell us, that you think of it? My inquiry is not directed to or at or against anybody or in favor of anybody. He is really handling her with kid gloves versus most of the other people that he has interviewed. I don't know of anything. What sort of a dress was it Miss Lizzie had on before she changed it? I don't know. I have not any idea. You must have been badly flustered. Perhaps it does seem so to you. I can tell you, any other time I have been out with the girls, sometimes a whole season, and I could not tell you what kind of hats they wore. That was not as strange as it would seem to some people. I do not observe, and I care very little about such things. You know that she changed her dress and put on a pink wrapper. Yes, sir. Whether the dress she had on before was dark or light. I haven't any idea. I can't recollect a thing. Do you remember whether the dress she had on was all one piece or a two-part dress? No, I can't. Different skirt and a different waist? No, I can't. You spent the night there? Yes, sir. Where did you sleep that night? The first 2 nights I slept in what was Mr. and Mrs. Borden's room. The next 2 nights I slept in what was Emma's room. After you found that stick, you changed. No, that did not make me change. You did change after that? Yes. Saturday I found the stick. Did you have occasion to go downstairs with Miss Lizzie that night? Yes, sir. The first night? Yes, sir. for some purpose connected with her sickness. It was just wash water, water we had been using for bathing. That afternoon, she started to get it out of the wash bowls. I said, I will go down with that. She says, I will go if you will go and hold the lamp. I went down with her and she emptied it. When she went into the laundry and rinsed out the pail, I stood at the door and held the lamp. Where was this? Down cellar. What time of night was that? Was it in the night? Oh, no, before we had gone to bed. How did you get downstairs that time? Do you remember? Yes, we came through the sitting room then because the bodies had been put into the dining room. The bodies had been moved then? Yes, sir. It was before you had gone to bed? Yes, sir. You were both dressed? Yes, sir. So far as I can remember, in any way, and I think she was. Do you know what became of the dress that she did take off? I suppose that she hung it up in the wardrobe. You did not notice? No, sir. When I came up, her dress was fastened and she was tying the ribbon. She had already changed the dress. Yes, they kept coming and interviewing, and I suppose she wanted to get into a respectable appearance. And that is all we have of Miss Alice M. Russell. So, as we heard, she is the same one who stayed the night of the murder or the night after the murder. She was the one in the witness statements where the officer was like, I'm bored, but I see through the crack that somebody's in the cellar and they're throwing things away because he was on night duty and he was like incredibly bored. My interpretation, but if I was on night duty guarding a house with a woman who may be the murderer and a bunch of dead bodies, I'd probably be bored. And this was a time before cell phones. Don't know how they would have looked at it if he had whipped out a book from his pocket and started reading while on duty. Probably not favorably. So she didn't have terribly much to say. She was the one who also discovered the stick that I totally forgot about. I believe they said that it was a stick that he had whittled years ago. I don't know how much I believe that it had, whether it had been under the bed the entire time or not. It's certainly plausible she had just not seen it. If you think about all the crap shoved underneath your bed, yeah, you know you got some crap shoved underneath there. Unless you got a platform bed, yeah, you do. How often do you see stuff poking out from under there? And if you do, you're probably shoving it deeper under. But she does give a little bit of an insight into the family dynamics that we didn't have before, saying that the father didn't particularly care for the things that girls would want. I'm seeing Lizzie and Emma kind of on par with what a modern woman would have wanted in the 1890s. We're looking at the suffragette movement in that time period. So they would have been much more outspoken, wanting to hold jobs, wanting to be out and about, wanting to be more educated than they would have been normally pre-suffragette movement. And the father apparently was a bit hidebound and was like, why would you want anything other than what I give you? Like that doesn't enough. And there would have been some tensions. It would have been great that they didn't have full-blown fights, or at least they never did in front of company, and company had never, their friends had never heard of them having full-blown fights, simply that they resolved it by staying out of each other's way for the most part. So that is the end of Miss Alice Russell's. Today we are going over the inquest of Sarah B. Whitehead. She is Mrs. Borden's half-sister, and that should definitely be ringing some bells for you, because she's been a subject of contention among the entire investigation. She's the one that Mr. Borden bought the house for in order to appease his wife, who was fearful that her half sister would end up homeless. And that triggered the ire of both Lizzie and Emma, stating that if he bought something for his sister in law, he should also be giving them a piece of property. Though, if you remember later on, he did buy the property back from the girls. And it seems as if the entire investigation is kind of hinging on whether those bad feelings surrounding this entire piece of property and what went down could have led Lizzie to murder her parents. So, everyone, let's dig in. Sarah B. Whitehead. Mr. Knowlton. What is your name? Sarah B. Whitehead? Miss or Mrs.? Mrs. Where do you live? 45 4th Street. Were you there the day of the tragedy, the day of the murder? No, sir. I was out of town. Where were you that day? I went to Rocky Point. Are you connected or related in any way to Mr. or Mrs. Borden? Mrs. Borden was my half sister. The same father or the same mother? The same father. What was your father's name? Oliver Gray. And once again, we have a great opportunity here to flush out our family tree of everybody related in this case. So we now have Mrs. Borden's full name from previous testimony. We have her sister's name, and we now have their father's name, Oliver Gray. Her mother, I take it, was the first wife and yours the second? Yes, sir. Were there other sisters or half sisters? There is one half sister to me and own sister to Mrs. Borden. What is her name? Priscilla Fish. She lives in Hartford. On a side note, I just love the name Priscilla. I've only met one Priscilla in real life. Great woman, but love the name Priscilla. Were you well acquainted with the daughters, Emma and Lizzie? Well, yes, I was well acquainted with them. Were you on congenial terms with them? Well, I don't know as I was. I never thought they liked me. Not on particularly friendly terms then. No, I always thought they felt above me. Did you know anything about the relations between Miss Lizzie and your half sister, Mrs. Borden? I don't, for I never went there, very seldom, on account of those girls. Were you not on good terms with your half sister? Very good, more so than anybody in the world. I did not know, but you would go there to see her. I did occasionally. Did she come to your house? Yes, sir. She came very often. Did she seem to be on good terms with her daughters? She never used to say, but very little about them. She was a woman that kept everything to herself. Was there some little friction about property that you knew about? Not that I knew of. And I could see that being true. Like, would you want to tell the person that you gifted a house to that it caused a big hoopla and then now there's issues because you gifted a house to them? You wouldn't want them knowing about that. Did not Mr. Borden buy out somebody, buy you out? He bought out my mother's share of the estate. What did he do with it? He gave it to my sister. That is Mr. Borden, his wife? Yes, sir. I don't know whether he bought it or she bought it. Did your sister have property of her own, some? I don't know how much she had. She had some. I don't know whether she had other personal property or not. I suppose she did, but I don't know. This that was bought out and given to Mrs. Borden was your mother's interest? Yes, sir. What is it in? Real estate or personal property? It is real estate. Where is it? It is the house I live in. What is the value of it about? Well, I think when it was sold, it brought $3,000. It already belonged to the three of you? No. My father left half to me and half to my mother's, and my mother sold her part to my sister. Your sister, Mrs. Borden? Yes, sir. So it then belonged to your sister and you? Yes, sir. She bought it to keep it in the family. It now stands so. That is, to the estate of your sister and you. You don't know what was paid for your mother's half. I think she paid 1,500. You say she paid it. You don't know whether she paid it or Mr. Borden. I don't know whether it was her money or his money. Someone's money paid for it. Yes. Yes, Mr. Inquisitor, that is generally how that works, is when you purchase real estate. Somebody's money pays for the real estate. Maybe he hasn't bought real estate before, but I thought most of us understood that's how that worked. The deed was taken right before your mother to Mrs. Borden. I suppose it was. How long ago was that? I don't it don't seem more than 4 or 5 years ago. I know my father has been dead 14 years. It don't seem to me my mother kept that property long in her hands. It was as long as 4 or 5 years ago. Is there any other fact about this matter that you can enlighten us about? No, there's not. You don't know anything about it at all. No, I don't know much more than a stranger would. Do you know anything about whether your sister left a will? I do not. Did she ever speak about a will? Never. So far as you know, she did not leave any. She never told me that she made one. I don't know anything about it. And that is it, folks. That is all they asked her. I felt like they could have gone in a lot more about that. I guess that they felt that since she didn't know much about how the property was purchased, they didn't go into whether it caused too many issues. They touch on the subject about whether Mrs. Borden had any issues with the girls, but they've asked that about everyone, so it's not even particularly of import that they asked her about it. It doesn't seem like she particularly asked a lot of questions about when Mrs. Borden bought the property from her stepmother. We are nearing the end. of Volume 2 of the Inquest of Lizzie Borden. And today we are covering Hannah H. Gifford. She is a women's cloak maker, and she would make cloaks for all of the ladies of the Borden house. If you've never had a chance to look up what a cloak was in the Victorian era, it is similar and yet different to what you're thinking about. They were often made of taffeta, silk, and were trimmed with embroidery, ruffles, fringe, and lace. So she would have been rather a specialist in her field. And even more so today. They would cost an absolute fortune today, and I'm sure they were a necessary piece of clothing back in the Victorian era to keep you warm on a cold winter's day. But for now, let's dig into the inquest of Hannah H. Gifford. Hannah H. Gifford. Mr. Knowlton, what is your name? Hannah H. Gifford. Where do you live? 39 Franklin Street. Were you acquainted in the family of Mr. Borden? Yes, sir, I was. Ever go there? No, sir, never. What is your business? Cloak making. Ladies' cloaks, I suppose? Yes, sir. Did you ever make cloaks for either of that family? All three of them. Mrs. Borden, Lizzie, and Emma? Yes. When was the last time you made any garment for Mrs. Borden? It must have been as much as 2 or 3 years ago. When was the last for Emma? This spring. Not made one for her, but I fixed one for her. Then for Lizzie? I made one for her also this spring, very early this spring. Of course, that made them come to your house more or less. Yes, of course. Did you ever hear either Miss Emma or Miss Lizzie say anything about their mother? I never heard Emma, but I have heard Lizzie. What have you heard Lizzie say? Well, she called her mother a mean old thing. When was that? That was this spring when I was doing the last work for them. How came she to say that? It was some remark I made about her mother's garment. What would be becoming for her? You know, Mrs. Borden was very fleshy. Oh, well, okay, then. We did not know that Mrs. Borden was very fleshy, but thank you for informing us. Um, I am also very fleshy, but I would appreciate it if you called me a member of the Fluffy Brigade instead, because fleshy is just not a word I want associated with me. I spoke to her of what I thought would be becoming to Mrs. Borden. She says, well, she is a mean old thing. I says, oh, you don't say that, Lizzie. She says, yes, and we don't have anything to do with her. Only what we are obliged to, she says. She said that? She said that, yes. Anything more? Well, she says, we stay upstairs most of the time. We stay in our room most of the time. I says, you do. Don't you go to your meals? Yes, we go to our meals, but we don't always eat with the family, with them. Sometimes we wait until they're through, she says. The thing I find interesting about this is that in this rendition, Lizzie is talking in the plural, meaning both her and Emma. But most of the focus of this inquest has been on Lizzie, not on Emma. Emma's been brought up a few times, but not to the depth that Lizzie has, which kind of makes sense because they would have done this before proceeding with the trial of the murders for before proceeding with Lizzie being charged with the murders. Did she tell you why? No, that is all she said. I did not say anything more. I was awfully surprised to hear her. You never heard Mrs. Borden say anything, I suppose? No, I never heard any of them say anything against each other, excepting that. That is the only time I ever heard Lizzie either, and I was very much surprised. Did she seem to be joking about it, or speaking with some feeling? No, she seemed to have a little feeling about it, that was all. There was no joking about it at all. That was this last spring? Yes, it was early in the spring that I done their work. And that was another very short inquest, which makes sense because all this woman had to offer was basically being a character witness, in this case, against Lizzie. I had heard something negative spoken by Lizzie about her mother. So that's all we have, other than hopefully you're looking up Victoria era cloaks. And yes, they made them for men, not just women. It could be your new fashion accessory for next winter. Are you getting excited? This is the third from last person to be interviewed in the inquest. And then we're moving on to the trial. No fluff, no speculation, just cold, hard facts recorded in court documents and police reports. Eli Benz. Mr. Knowlton. What is your full name? Eli Benz. Mr. Benz, where's your place of business? I work for D.R. Smith, the corner of South Main Street and Columbia, a drugstore. How long has the drugstore been there? Could not say just positively. I should judge close on 10 years. I should think more than that. I don't know positively. Have you worked there during that time? I worked there 3 years last spring, the 8th of April. You remember the day of this murder? I do positively. I suppose you heard of it very soon afterwards? Yes, sir. Was your attention then attracted to the fact of anybody's endeavoring to buy poison at your store the day before? My attention was directed to that point along towards 6 or 7 o'clock in the evening of the day of the murder. What took place? What happened about the purchasing of the poison? This party came in there and inquired if I kept prussic acid. They came in, and the second clerk went towards them to wait on them. I was standing out there. I walked in ahead. She asked me if we kept prussic acid. I informed her that we did. What happened then? She asked me if she could buy 10 cents worth of me. I informed her we did not sell prussic acid unless by a physician's prescription. She then said that she had bought this several times, I think. I think she said several times before. I says, well, my good lady, it is something we don't sell unless by a prescription from the doctor, as it is a very dangerous thing to handle. She then walked around and went out, turned right around. Did she say what she wanted it for? I understood her to say she wanted it to put on the edge of a sealskin cape, if I remembered rightly. She did not buy anything, no drug at all, no medicine. No, sir. Did you then know who it was? I knew her as Miss Borden. I have known her for some time as a Miss Borden, but not as Andrew J. Borden's daughter until that morning. One of the gentlemen who was sitting there, when she turned around and went out, he says, that is Andrew J. Borden's daughter. I looked at her a second time, then more closely than when I was talking to her. I should say it was Miss Borden. What time of day was this? I should say between 10 and half past 11. Somewhere I could not positively state the hour, as I was quite busy. I had been away on a vacation and just came back that morning. I had lots of work in the back shop. I had been quite busy. But it was before I go to dinner, which is half past 11. And I think between 10 and half past 11 positively. Had you ever seen her in the store before? No, sir, not in that store. Had you merely seen her on the street? Yes, sir. Was that the day before the murder? Yes, sir. That was August 3rd. You said your attention was attracted to it 6 or 7 o'clock in the evening. What attracted your attention then? There was a lady came in the shop. She says to me, talking of it as everybody did that day, she says, why, I understand. They're suspecting Miss Borden, the daughter. This was the evening after the murder? Yes. I do not care for that. I thought it was the evening before the murder. No, sir. You may finish it. Now you have begun. Oh, well, that's nice of him. Just going to let him go ahead and finish what he was saying in the first place, even though he's like, well, I don't really care. Like, since it was the day of the murder after it happened. Like, I was hoping it was before the murder, but I guess since you already started, whatever. I says, is that so? She says yes, and walked out then. It started me to thinking of this that had happened the day before. The other gentleman that was there at the time, he came in shortly afterwards, and he remarked to me that that was a rather singular coincidence. I said yes, I thought it was. I then spoke to one of my intimate friends, a doctor, and I told him what I had heard, etc. And he says then, you ought to report it. I says I think so myself. We were busy with prescriptions at the time. I was alone at the time in the shop. About somewhere around 8 o'clock, Officer Doherty and Officer Harrington came up. And if you've been following along, you know my feelings about dear old Officer Harrington having anything to do with this case. Did you afterwards go to the house? I did, yes, sir. When was that? I should say between 8 and 9 o'clock. What day was that? That was the 4th, the day of the murder. When did you go to the house? 8 o'clock in the evening, after the murder. The same evening? Yes, sir. Did you there see Lizzie Borden? I did, yes, sir. Where was she when you saw her? In the kitchen, talking to Officer Harrington. Did you recognize her as the one that you had had the talk with the night before? I did, yes, sir. Positively. I don't think I could be mistaken. How did you judge? I judged both from seeing her before on the street and also by a peculiar expression around the eyes, which I noticed at the time and noticed then. I have no idea what he means by peculiar expression around the eyes. Yeah, I got nothing. Maybe like the shape of her eyes. Maybe she's got a eye tick or something. Needs a little bit of magnesium in her diet. No idea. Maybe just glares at people. Absolutely no idea what he means by that. Let me know if you have any guess about what he means by a peculiar expression around the eyes. Did you hear her talk? I did. Did you identify the voice? I did. You went in for the purpose of seeing if she was the one. Yes, sir. Well, that was kind of nosy. I mean, like, the whole purpose of being there was like, is that the girl I think it is? Like, is she the one who's being accused of the murder? I think that's the girl that was here yesterday looking for poison. Yeah. Like, let's just go and have a look see. Oh my God, it is. Did you speak to her that evening in there? I did not. Who was present in the shop when she came in to buy the prussic acid? The second clerk, Mr. Hart, and Mr. Kilroy. The third clerk was in the back shop and did not hear or see anything. Kilroy and Hart were in the shop. Yes, sir. The law requires a record to be made of sales of poison. Yes, sir. I calculate to see old people of that kind who come in the shop. How came she to say what she wanted it for? Did you ask her? I did. Yes, sir. That is what we always do. How much would 10 cents worth be? I never sold 10 cents worth in my life. I never sold it. Only on prescription. Okay. You've never sold it only on prescription. So you have sold it before, but you've never just like sold it to people who come in asking for it. You just require like a doctor's prescription and then you'll sell it to them. Little confusing the way he words that, but I guess it's just me. How much is in an ounce? I don't know, as I could really tell you how much it does cost an ounce. It is so long ago since we bought any. I could not positively say. Like, is it even any good if you? I don't know the properties of prussic acid. Like, its shelf life. Has it been stored properly? Like, there's so many questions. He's bought it a long time ago. Like, how long? Is obviously long enough that he doesn't remember how much they spent on buying it, which means that not a lot of people are being prescribed it if they're not selling it to just anybody who comes in. Give me some idea what it would be worth to sell. Near 10 cents or $50 an ounce. I never sell it that way. Suppose I should want to buy an ounce. I should not sell it to you. What does it cost you an ounce? It is not expensive. I have forgotten just what it does cost. I think somewhere around 25 or 30 cents an ounce. How much of a dose of prussic acid is fatal, do you know? Yes, sir, I ought to. We don't keep prussic acid in its strength. We only keep the diluted 2%. One drop of strong prussic acid has proved fatal. The dilution is as high as 4 drops. I have given that on prescription. We never put up 4 drops without first inquiring of the doctor. I would not like to give anybody 5 drops. They were prescribing something that lethal to people. I mean, they used to prescribe people to take to like consume gold, like actual gold for like alcoholism. So I guess I shouldn't be too surprised. And some of the drugs that we're prescribed nowadays, I'm sure our descendants will be looking at us in horror. Don't they know how dangerous that was? Yeah, but we're also told by our doctors that they wouldn't prescribe it unless they felt that it was good for us. Have you had any talk with anybody else about this matter, except Mr. Hillard and his officers and the doctor? Only the doctor, that is all. Lots and lots of people have spoken to me about it. I have always referred them to Mr. Hillard. Of course, when it came out in the paper, everybody was inquiring of me if I had done this or done that. Well, everyone, that is all Eli Benz has to say on the matter. He is an upstanding clerk. He would never, ever sell prussic acid unless the person had a doctor's prescription for it. And he is very willing to listen to the gossip and take a peek at Lizzie to see if she really is the one who asked him for acid the day before, but he's not willing to indulge in giving out the gossip. So we are down to just 2 more people before the trial. If you're one of the new people who've been popping by, welcome. Stick around, poke around, and see if this is something you enjoy. And if it's something you absolutely hate, recommend it to your enemies. All right, everyone, let's dig in to the inquest test of Frank H. Kilroy. Frank H. Kilroy, Mr. Knowlton. What is your name? Frank H. Kilroy. What is your business? I'm a student of medicine. Where were you last Wednesday, a week ago yesterday? Wednesday morning, I called to D.R. Smith's drugstore. Do you know Miss Lizzie A. Borden? I have seen her. I know her by sight. Have you seen her since the tragedy? No, sir. How long had you known her by sight? Perhaps a year. Had you ever seen her in the store? No, I saw her on the street. So you could identify her? No, sir. Now, did you see her in the store that morning? Yes, sir. What took place? She came in there. I was in front of the counter under the fan talking with Mr. Bentz. She went up to the counter. Mr. Hart, the clerk, was behind the counter. She asked Mr. Hart for prussic acid. At that time, Mr. Bentz left me and went behind the counter and asked her if she had a prescription, that they could not sell prussic acid without a prescription. I don't know just what she said. I heard her mention sealskin cape, and she left the store. How was she dressed? I don't remember. I think she had a cape or carried a cape or sack of some kind in her arm. That is all you know about it? Yes, sir. You have not been to see her since that time? No, sir. You feel sure you know who she is? Well, I think so. And that is all the questions that they had for Mr. Gilroy, which makes sense because his primary purpose is to collaborate the story of Eli Benz, which he does. And seeing as I myself am sweltering under the humid heat of a summer in northern Alabama, I fully support his plan of standing by a fan while I work. So we didn't learn a lot from Mr. Kilroy, but we did learn that Lizzie was apparently carrying something. What, in your estimation, was she carrying the sealskin that she intended to use the acid on? And if so, was it a ruse the entire time? Or perhaps it was just a coincidence because neither of her parents were killed by poisoning. So does it even matter in the long run whether she was trying to buy acid? And I don't know about you, but I am super excited. This is the last person to be interviewed in the inquest. The entire volume one of the inquest was Lizzie, and our only secondary source document, which was my mistake. But from then out, we went into volume two of the inquest, which is primary source. And this is our last witness to be interviewed before the inquest. So, everyone, let's dig in. Frederick B. Hart, Mr. Knowlton. What is your name? Frederick B. Hart. What is your business? Clerk at D.R. Smith's drugstore. Were you present in the store Wednesday morning a week ago? I was. Did you see anybody coming in there inquiring for prussic acid? I did. State what you saw and heard. Between 10 and half past 11 o'clock Wednesday morning, a woman came in the store and inquired for prussic acid. She said she wanted it to put on the edges of a sealskin cloak. She was refused the acid and went out. Who waited on her? She was on the point of asking me as the other clerk stepped up and she asked him, rude, stealing somebody else's customer. Don't do that if you're in sales, especially if you take commission. Definitely a foul. Do you know who it was? I did not at the time know there. I think he means no, sir. I'm going to assume that he meant no, sir. Have you seen her since? I have not, no, sir. So you don't know who it is, excepting by hearsay. I don't know, except from a picture I have seen in the paper. In the Fall River Globe, yes, sir. That is all the way you know is by the picture. Does she resemble the picture of Miss Borden you have seen in the paper? She does. That is all you know about it. Yes, sir. Had you ever seen that person in the store before? No, sir. Mr. Hart recalled. Did you see the lady that was in custody in company with the marshal as you went out? In black, yes, sir. Is that the woman? That is the woman. You are sure of it? That is sure. You don't think you can be mistaken? I don't think I can be mistaken. I think you said you had known her by sight before. I never knew the woman by sight before. You're sure this is the woman? I am, sir. Just. Okay, that's kind of like a little weird on how they put this in the end right here. But I'm pretty sure that this was supposed to be answer, and they just didn't place it below. They're probably running out of room on the PDF, which It's fine. I wouldn't want a whole nother page just for a one sentence, a short sentence answer. That's always annoying. So it looks like what they did was Lizzie was coming down through the courthouse where the inquest was being held in the company of a marshal. And they're like, hey, Mr. Hart, that her? And he's like, yeah, yeah. But again, the only purpose of Mr. Hart being here was to add veracity to Eli Benz's statement that Lizzie had come in to buy prussic acid. This would have blown the case wide open if her parents had been murdered by poison. They were hacked to death. I was going to say bludgeoned, but I mean, like, it's not even bludgeoning because it's from a sharp implement. So we can't even say that they were bludgeoned to death. They were hacked to death. And if you're coming in late, absolutely go back to witness statements because one, this is going to make a lot more sense. But the descriptions of that the witnesses give of finding Mr. Borden's body and even Mrs. Borden's body are just incredibly varying of the way they describe it, which kind of gives you an insight into how humans view things. Even somebody who studies forensics might find that interesting to see the word usage that people use to describe the injuries that they saw in the deceased. The whole situation is just bizarre. It was just like this weird body viewing of the murder, just grabbing people off the streets and being like, hey, you want to see the dead body? Okay, not exactly like that, but it kind of had that vibe at times. We are now officially at the end of the Inquest. We have been through volume 1 and we have been through volume 2. Some witnesses took a long time to get their story out, and Mr. Knowlton had a ton of questions for them. And others were more of character assassinations. But let me know what you think at this point. You've seen the witness statements, so you know that they were looking at other possible suspects. You know that there was a question of whether the family was ill due to poisoning, but that was also only because, at least in my view, because Lizzie had been looking for prussic acid. Whether she had a good reason to or not is probably yet another source of debate in this entire saga. So take a minute, jot down your notes, pull up the Sanborn maps, and see if you can find the drugstore on the map. Do all of your research and get ready. We're about to hit the trial. And while I don't know a lot about this case other than some of a nursery rhyme about Lizzie Borden giving her parents 40 whacks and then another 8, and the general gist of what went on, I have heard inklings that they dumped the skulls of her parents, or at least the mother, I think, onto a table in front of her. And there was a lot of fainting. So I, for one, am really excited about the trial. I'm not surprised that Lizzie was indicted and they took it to trial. As everyone knows, a good prosecutor can indict a ham sandwich. So the fact that she wound up before a court isn't surprising to me. What is surprising is that she was found innocent. But we knew that going in, which means the prosecution was unable to prove their case. And a good prosecutor never brings a case forward if they're not sure of victory. So until next time, everyone, happy hunting.